And a very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Sin Bin. Today we have got plenty to get through. Obviously, Origin and where it will be for Game 1 will be high on the agenda. But before we go any further, Storm 40, Broncos 12. Cowboys 29, Warriors 28 after a great field goal there from Val Holmes. Tigers 34, Dragons 18. Congratulations to the Panthers, 12 straight with a 30-4 win over the Doggies. Souths 38, Parramatta 20. Roosters 44, Raiders 16. Raiders have lost 7 of their last 8. That'll get a run today as well. Sharks Titans coming up in beautiful Coffs Harbour at 2 o'clock today, and then Knights take on Manly. It's Triple M NRL. All those scores are thanks to our mates at Tyre Power. The big freeze sale is on now. Go and see them. Get the power of Australia's biggest independent. Gorden Tallis, welcome to you.
Good afternoon, Anthony. How are you?
Fantastic.
Thank you for picking me up today.
That's all right,
I really
mate.
appreciate
That's
it.
all right. I know you've been in Canberra. I thought, geez, I've got enough trouble. And now you've been down there. Hope you haven't been looking for a coaching job.
No, I haven't,
Right.
actually.
Okay.
Just assistant coach.
Paul Kent from NRL 360. G'day, mate.
Hello, Anthony.
Plenty to talk about with you today.
Well, I hope not. I hope we can talk about some footy.
Well, we're talking about we won't be crossing over on your social life, which wow, I wish I could get some of that on a Maroon Confidential. That's good gear, that. Yeah. And of course, our favourite here, James Triceps Hooper. You're looking great, Triceps. You continue to work out through the week.
Afternoon, Anthony. How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic, mate. All the better. I've been really looking forward to getting here today. Really looking forward to it. So much to talk about. So we've done the scores, boys. Plenty to talk about in Club Rugby League. But, of course, everybody wants to know about Origin 1 and where we think it will be. At the moment, guys, nothing is set in concrete. It could still be in Melbourne, but it is firming, Hoops, that if it's not in Melbourne, it will be in Townsville.
Yeah, they'll make a call in the next 24 to 48 hours, but the way that it's shaping up at the moment, down in Mexico, south of the border, it's not looking overly prosperous. So you'd have to think if it is called off at the MCG, and the MCC, I beg your pardon, would have to agree because they've got all sorts of contractual arrangements already in place to release the game, and then the NRL, the New South Wales Rugby League, and the QRL would be able to move it to Townsville.
Why would they have to have some sort of meeting? I know there's contractually to play there, but I can't understand why, given the COVID restrictions, they'd still insist on the game.
No, I don't understand any of that, Kenty. All I can tell you is that there is, because the contract's in place, right?
But
the Melbourne Cricket Ground has to agree that, okay, we can't host it, but we've tipped in all this dough to be able to have it here, so now we'll let it go.
But the reason, Hoops, you tip the dough in is because you want to then bring tourists and get and recoup what you've just spent to take the game.
Yep.
But if no tourists can actually, and there's no one from Queensland or New South Wales who could actually fly down to watch the game, then I just think the whole exercise is irrelevant. Like they might as well just cut their losses and say, and it's almost like they've dodged a bullet there, that they can say, okay, well, we don't have to spend the money to bring the game in. Now you can take it to Townsville, and therefore we won't suffer a loss.
I'd say that's what'll happen. Sanity will prevail, but
you
all
think
that
we'll be
red
in
tape's
Melbourne?
just got to get.
I don't think it'll be in
I don't think it'll be in Melbourne at all. No, I think in all likelihood, given what's going on down in Victoria, it's going to have to be up in Queensland.
Are we 100% though? Just to clear this up, 100%. Or 99.9%. If it's not in Melbourne, it's in Townsville?
I don't think so. There's a bit of talk around that the New South Wales Rugby League have actually been lobbying to try and have the game at Bank West.
Right.
So I think...
Why Bank West?
Well, crucial to this, Gordon, is that the last time that one of the states did host both games, it was Queensland in 2017. So there's a view...
And Queensland got 2 games next year. In Queensland.
But certainly all this is being petty to worry about that part of it. I mean, let's just find the right venue. Don't worry about bloody New South Wales. That's
not
petty.
being petty.
That is being petty.
Why is it
We're in
petty?
the middle of a COVID pandemic. We're going to argue about where it was played 4 years ago.
No,
that's petty.
No, well, that's silly.
Tom Petty.
Correct.
Listen, no, the fact is, though...
what's petty is you trying to go off like a cheap alarm clock like that, like you give a rat.
Yeah.
I do give her. I've got.
There'll be folding involved.
I think it's important for both states if they can get home ground advantage. It's shown over the years the value of having home ground advantage, and while you might pretend that Bank West or Townsville will be not traditional, they're going to. Townsville is like the heart of Queensland.
Paul,
I don't get Bank
north
West.
you go, the redder the necks are.
What I'm saying to you is, surely in the middle of everything else that is going on, the game's got to be moved from the last minute out of Melbourne. It's petty to jump in and say, oh, well, they had 2 games in Brisbane 4
No, it's
years
not,
ago.
because
it
you've got
is.
2 stadiums
Anthony,
in
it's
2
not.
different states with
But if
what
it stays
you would
in,
call
listen, if it
equal.
goes to Brisbane, it gets
Oh,
played
I
at
don't agree.
Suncorp, right? If it's in Sydney, it's got to be played at the biggest stadium, right?
I
You don't bring
agree.
it to Sydney and then put it at Bankwest. And
No,
I think,
I agree.
I mean, like, we're going to get a big advantage. Suncorp 50,000. You go to Townsville, a smaller venue, right?
I actually like the opportunity this presents the NRL to reward non-traditional towns in traditional states. So I like the idea of Townsville or Newcastle,
Thank you.
which is just a one-off, but it rewards two cities who are blue-collar rugby league towns, cities, and they will obviously come out in droves. And I think it'll be a wonderful promotion for the game at either venue. Bankwest, I agree with Gordy. You might as well take it to Stadium Australia and get the extra 30,000 people in the crowd. And if it's got, obviously we know the merit of having it at Suncorp Stadium, but look, I do think that there is a lot of advantage to be gained by having it in your home state as a 2-game series.
But surely, if we're talking about them making a decision, you said 24 to 48 hours. If it's 48 hours, then the game's a week away. I mean, surely who's got the home ground advantage is the least of anyone's problems. Think of the logistics of moving everything.
It's not hard.
Of course it's hard,
you fly
Paul.
north or south.
It's not that easy to just fly.
Well,
It's not that
Anthony,
easy.
Well, you get on a plane. You be there an hour before the plane leaves. That's about as difficult as it gets, and then you get off when the plane stops at the other end.
For you, it might be that difficult.
Anthony, this is about state of origin, the showpiece spectacle for the sport of rugby league.
Yeah.
It's not about your extras.
No,
okay? It's not about you being able to book functions in.
Make this.
Right? No,
you're
because
making this
that's
frivolous.
why you're blowing up.
No, I'm
That
not.
is why you're blowing
making
up.
this frivolous.
You can smell something in the water,
No,
right?
I don't
and you're
know, mate.
after it like a shark.
No, look,
You
you're
don't know whether
making
they're called-
this.
You don't know whether they're called Townsville or Newcastle.
Okay, I'll tell you what, boy, okay, all right.
Bushland Beach.
You can say that if you want, but you're thinking of getting players and yourself getting your ass on a plane and getting to whether it's Townsville or... Just hang on a second. What about catering? What about... No, why is that funny? What about you take in 50,000 people, you take in corporate people that were going to go to Melbourne are now going to go to Townsville. What
They
about
don't have
people...
to go out and farm. They can go to the shops and buy the food.
Mate, okay, you're just disagreeing with me for the heck of it.
Can we
so
hang on?
you're saying a
argument's
major
that now,
stadium
Anthony?
can't get food to fill the stadium enough to feed the stadium in a week with a week's
Yeah, I'm
notice?
saying,
can
I'm
get
not
from
saying
one.
that.
Come
I'm
on.
saying you've only got a week. Whether or not you can do it, you got a week to change. You're
They've
talking
already
about
got all
can
these
drive
systems
from
in place.
Oh, listen, I'm not going to argue
truck
with
can
3
drive
of
from
you.
Brisbane to
I'm not going to
Townsville.
Can we
argue
get
with
back
3
to
of
the
you.
football, please?
No,
Because
we
you've lost
can't get
complete
back. No,
control.
I have
here.
not lost complete
No
control.
one's interested.
This is no one's interested because you
in your
try to make
jibber
light
jabber
hearted
about
of what I'm
catering.
trying to
No
say.
one is interested
yes,
in
you
your
are.
jibber jabber about
So,
catering. Okay.
what I'm
Can we get
saying,
back
let's
to the
get
sides,
someone from
please,
catering
to the teams
on the
about to be
phone.
selected.
What, you want to get a caterer on the phone?
Mate,
Oh, mate,
you guys, this is a lot of
Crazy
crap.
alert.
This is a
Well,
lot
the
of
game was there
crap.
the other night. So
What?
the caterers are there. The game was there the other night. There was
Mate,
15,000
you don't
people.
know
so it's
what
easy
you're
to
talking about. You're thinking that you're going to get on a plane and get up there, and that's all that's got to happen. You think that's all that's got to happen. That's what you think, and what you think, and what you think.
Well, that's what Spotless
All
or
right,
whatever
you know
the
what?
catering
I'm not going to go
company
any
will
further
do.
with it.
You're
All right,
saying
that's
that
their
no,
logistical
you're the
problem.
expert, Gordon. You're the expert.
Yeah, well, you're not,
No,
clearly.
correct. No, you're right. You're
You're
right.
Ronnie Pickering. Look at you.
Yes. All right, go on. Sorry, Hoops.
It's not hard to get a truck from Brisbane
Oh,
to
mate,
Townsville. It'll take
I don't
one
want to
day.
go over it again. I'm not going to
Believe
fight
it or
3
not,
blokes.
Anthony, there might be some big news around these sides, one of which is being picked at 7 o'clock tonight.
Right,
So
okay, well, let's go to
clearly
that.
The Panthers are on fire.
Yep.
Brian Toto is going to be in the New South Wales 17. He'll be on one of the wings.
Right.
There's still a decision to be made around Jerome Luai and Jack Whiten. They'll both be in the 17. Who starts in the 6 jumper is what's still being shaken out as we speak amongst the New South Wales hierarchy. Then the Maroons have also got some critical decisions to make. Munster hasn't played in a couple of weeks and has got this foot injury. Gordon, they pick him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You give him every chance. Obviously, you can cover his spot. Obviously, the guy that I was thinking that probably would have pushed into 5'8" would be someone like a Kalen Ponga, but he's out too, so he hasn't played for a few weeks with the groin injury or
He's
whatever.
playing today.
Adductor.
Are you sure?
Isn't he playing today?
No, I don't think he is.
Oh.
Okay.
No, he's not playing today.
No,
okay,
I don't
there
think
you go.
Callum Ponga's playing. So, and then Harry Grant. So if you're looking at our spine, our 6, 1 and 9, and Marnie, is he going to get suspended, is he, or something?
No, I think he was okay out of last night.
Yeah, or injured or what? Yeah, so anyway, but but I'm thinking Munster, who knows? Because Harry Grant, I'll give a little bit away. Harry Grant was on the Matty John show on that Sunday night. He told me he would have been back for the Broncos game.
Right.
He thought he and Munster were probably going to be back for the Broncos game, and they weren't.
Okay.
So are Melbourne travelling that good and thought they'd give them the extra week? So you can read into it whatever you want, but they didn't play against Brisbane, and that's the game that I thought that they were both aiming to come back at.
They'll give Munster every chance, though, won't they? Because reigning
absolutely.
Wally Lewis medal winner, it just kicked the door off the hinges last year's series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and at halftime he was playing like a busted, and Wayne just, give him a little cattle prod, and he went out there and turned the game around. So Munster, you give him every opportunity. You give him to the 11th hour.
Yeah, it says our producer says Munster is good to go according to the Storm.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, so it was a Liz Frank injury,
Yes.
was it? Like a
Oh,
foot?
no,
Yeah.
Liz, they're well, if you break your foot and it's your Liz Frank, you're out for months on end. So I don't know the actual extent of it, but certainly it's his foot.
Yeah.
I know he did have a little hiccup because during Magic Round he was
Might have
out.
just been a Kerry Sexby. Just a walking injury instead of a running.
I know.
That was my attempt of humour.
It was fun.
You're supposed to laugh at that, Anthony.
Oh, sorry. I
Yeah,
was
sorry.
reading the. I was reading the. Sorry, mate. No, it was funny. It was funny that. Yeah. Sorry, Hoops. Go.
Munster being the character that he is, I know he did have a little hiccup during Magic Round where he was injured, but he decided to go out, catch up with a couple of his other NRL player colleagues, had a bit of an evening out, and I think he might have got pinched when he was tiptoeing back into the hotel, a little bit like yourself back in the good old days. Anthony, tiptoeing back in at 7 a.m. and someone spotted you strafing through the corridor.
Yeah. That's a long time ago for me. Now, what about this? Is interesting about Brian To'o, Hoops.
Yeah, good story, gun story. Look, a lot of people questioned, his height and whether he would have the right physique for State of Origin. But Kenny's the amount of metres he makes coming out of yardage, out of his own end, and he's a proven finisher. It's hard to argue against him.
Yeah, look, he's got that really in his arsenal, hasn't he, at the moment, that you just can't deny the metres that he gets. He's unorthodox. He's a difficult player to tackle because of his shape. That's one thing I know that the good coaches do look at. They like different shapes. The only knock on To'o really is his height and the fact that Queensland will no doubt be bombing to his side. So, look, that's up to then Brad Fittler to come up with a solution for that. Well, Xavier Coates, and is a great through the air. Having said that, if you put Tom Trbojevic out that side, he'll play there. Tom can just basically swap with him on the kick.
Oh, look, there's weaknesses.
Tackle five,
they can
just swap.
weaknesses.
Yeah.
If you get a big, tall body, well, then, it's easy for you to get underneath him when he's coming out of yard. Brian To'o, in Origin, there's one thing that I know is you're a front rower. Everybody's got to have that front row mentality because every carry's such a tough carry, and he's been outstanding in that side of the game. Like his carries, he doesn't come up with too many poor reads. They haven't been throwing a lot of questions. Penrith have never really been under the pump, but everything that he's done so far, would sort of suggest that he's got to be given an opportunity. And he is the form winger.
And Gordy, you know the importance of getting your set off to a good start. And if you've got him sort of bullocking his way forward, and he's so difficult to pull down, and he's ducking under blokes, and he's breaking out of tackles. He's sensational at getting out of tackles.
Yeah, and I don't think it's enough just to say that he's not tall enough and he might get beaten in the air. It's not enough to leave him out of a side.
Well, even you look at the Broncos when they gave Penrith a run for their money earlier in the year, they kicked to him all night, Gordon, and he handled it.
Yeah.
Like he was put under repeated sustained pressure. But he had the answers. I think the other great advantage with To'o and Josh Adokar is that they can both play left and right. So To'o's playing on the left this year, but last year he was on the right wing for Penrith. So they're going to have options in terms of which side of the field they play on.
And they could switch through the game probably.
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, that's the state of the nation there. But one thing we do know, it will go ahead game one, the date that it's scheduled.
I just got a text. There's 40,000 pies heading to Townsville now,
Right.
Anthony. So
Okay.
the
Well,
catering.
that'll-
So we just ticked that box.
Right.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
We get a
Okay.
couple here this
Okay, there's
Arvo. We'll
five
calm
more.
our
I'm not
feelings
gonna-
down.
I'm
We'll
not
get
going
him
to
a
go.
Bex.
I'm not going to go
We'll get
over
him
it
a couple
again.
of Becks and a nice.
I'm not going to go
And
over it
1,000
again.
kilos of
Yeah.
chips going up there to get put in
No,
the
I'm
deep
not
fryer
going
as well.
not going to go over it again. Thanks anyway, mate. Fester. Thank you. That's the last time I pick you up from the airport, mate. You can
come up with something
you can
stupid.
get the bus.
You worry about
you
catering.
Can get the bus.
You've never worried about food. You go to
I'm
everybody's
not worried.
desk.
All right, yeah, you're right. No, okay.
Why don't you be honest and just say you are like you have genuine concerns about an earn? That's
I
okay
do
to
have
admit
that. I do have that.
Because you don't know where to book at the moment. Do they realise they're holding you?
Do you
up?
have things arranged in Melbourne?
The good people at IPE will just book for me. It wasn't talking about me.
Well.
I'm not going to raise it again, so
Yeah,
we
let's
get kicked
clarify.
down.
Did you already
Get
have
kicked
things
down.
arranged in place
Really?
in Melbourne, though?
Let me tell you something. That's
Billy's
not
gone
your
down.
business.
So that's a yes.
That's
Anyway,
not your
that's all good.
business.
No
So,
wonder
and why
we've
you throwing
clarified
IP
why
here?
you were so flustered about
I
it.
reckon we should see if we can get someone to call in who's already bought tickets to your little
I was
event that
only
you've
trying
got.
to make a point, but obviously I don't know as much as you three. I
Clear.
mean, I
Well,
know it didn't
Don't tell me you
have
only just
anything to do
realising.
with what's going on the field. So but obviously, I just.
Anthony, your role here is to get us into ad breaks and out of ad breaks.
I
That's it.
actually
So-
don't. I question that, Paul. And if that is my role,
Yeah.
I will resign right now.
Well,
if anyone's listening.
Is that a promise?
Let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about the Canberra game.
Triple M rocks the footy. The Sunday Sin Bin for Sea-Doo.
Back to it at 2 o'clock today in Coffs Harbour as part of Indigenous Round. The Sharks taking on the Titans. And the SMH reporting today, the Sydney Morning Herald reporting that players want Volandis out. So we're going to have a good look at that very shortly. Before we do, yesterday the Roosters absolutely gave it to the Raiders. For the Raiders, that was the 7th loss in their last 8 starts. Of course, Sawali's first grade try, first NRL try. But, boys, at the moment, the Raiders can't buy a win. I know they've had a hard week, but they've lost 7 of their last 8. Before I go to you, I might play you this audio of Ricky Stewart answering the question. On the back of the whole Georgie Williams thing, has that affected the side? Have a listen.
Yeah, it was a tough week. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It was a tough week. But I think we showed you when we got to the game, there's a lot of energy and good play. As I thought we had good control of the game for 30 minutes and then it falls away. If we didn't start that way, I'd say it's really affected us. But it hasn't. It didn't affect us because the boys got here, they were upbeat.
Are there solutions going around in the shed? Like, are the boys talking? What are they saying in the shed?
Well, I think you could only imagine how disheartened they are.
All right, there we go. Ricky Stewart. I don't know where they go from here. I mean, obviously, this Georgie Williams thing. And Hoops, it's been a year where we started off, we heard, I think it was Big Josh Papali saying it's not the most important thing in the world to him.
Rugby league.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we had an issue around Hodgson.
Yep.
And now we've got George
Joey
Williams.
Tarpanay.
Tarpanay's
Joey
wife.
Tarpanay's wife
Yeah.
was upset on social media.
So what's going on there?
Well, there's obviously a lot of different spot fires. And look, I think the biggest concern for Canberra is these numbers. You know, they led 10-0 last night. That's the 5th time this season they've bombed a 10-point lead. No other side in the comp has done that this year. And from round 5 onwards, they've been outscored 161 to 26 in the second half of games.
Just
So,
in the second
look,
half.
I don't know. Retired players who you speak to say that when you get to a lead and then you bomb it like that, that's mental, Gordon. Is that right, that it's more between your ears and anything else? Or
Yeah, well, obviously when they're sticking to the game plan and they're fresh and they're keen and they're ripping into it, and it's like the Raiders at the moment, which is the same as a lot of other clubs. When they have a setback, they just don't deal with it properly. You know what I mean? And they just tend to drop their head, and they drop their head for that moment. And it comes down to confidence and not believing, I think. Like, that's the biggest thing. You know, like, if you're giving up leads and when they get to 10-all and you just close up shop, and that's what's happening. And their defences, and then Ricky said it himself, he goes, soft tries, but he didn't want to use the word soft, but they're in easy tries. And that's just from people competing. You know what I mean? So, like, the stats show that they're not missing too many tackles, but they're just letting in soft tries.
Yeah, look.
And
Ricky
that's an attitude.
Stewart said last night in the press conference, he was asked, what's wrong, and he said, well, if I knew that, we'd fix it. So it's hard to pinpoint. I don't think there's any one thing that's an issue there. I think there's a number of things, but in those 7 losses, Anthony, in the last 8 games, Raiders would have been leading him nearly all of those games at some point during the game. They've started well in pretty much every game, led, and then been run down. Now, I don't know where that comes from. That's clearly that they've got to get that fixed. But it's just one of those times that you see clubs go through those situations. I think Tigers went through something similar earlier in the year where they just couldn't quite figure out why they weren't performing when you remember the Tigers got beaten by the Cowboys and whatnot. So. But it's trouble time for Canberra. Like most people had them there or thereabouts before the season began. I think it's really now time, which I heard a couple of people suggest that they're going to have to go through another rebuild now. Like you look back to say Canterbury in 2012. Canterbury made the grand final in 2012, got rolled. And that was the time they should have said, okay, let's just start rejuvenating the roster and start turning it over and move a couple of the older players on. Instead, Des Hasler at the time said, no, you know what, let's have another crack. So they back-ended a lot of contracts, if you remember, and they kept the playing group as it was. And they did get to another grand final in 2014 but couldn't win. But the repercussions of trying to sort of eke out those last couple of years and get there again really cost the club. And then that Canterbury then fell in a hole after that because they'd invested on basically all luck or no dinner, and they ended up no dinner. And so when they were in that situation, they then the premiership window closed. They had to go and rebuild, and they had to go from the very bottom, which they're still trying to get out of. I think Canberra this year was the year that they really had to try and get there. They had made the grand final 2 years ago, preliminary final last year. This year was their third and final crack before you needed to rejuvenate. They're not going to get there this year. So I would suggest that now's probably the time that they say, you know what, now we start turning over the roster. And if I'm Ricky Stewart, the one thing you see about most clubs, when there's a little bit of noise starts coming out of the dressing room, the coach is always in trouble. And coaches are, and I've spoken to plenty over the years, that'll deny that there's an issue there. And they deny, sacked. And that's just the way it just hits them. And some express genuine surprise that it happens. And others will admit later they could see it coming, but they couldn't fix it. The one thing we know about the Raiders is they won't sack Ricky Stewart. What Ricky Stewart means to that club and what he does for the club beyond just the football and the relationship he has with Chief Executive Don Ferner, the fact that the Raiders have only ever sacked one coach in the history of the club, and that ironically was Don Ferner's brother Dave. But they are a club that is extremely reluctant to sack their coaches. It's not the way they operate. And Ricky Stewart means so much to the club and there's faith in him to be able to rebuild from where they are now, that he will be given that opportunity. So if there are players at the moment in the club who are making a little bit of noise and it's not the positive noise that the club wants to hear, you can guarantee they'll be the ones that moved on. They won't be the coach.
Something needs to happen because there's a rift between something. Because, there's Papali or Papali'i, there's Tano, there's the Pommy guys that are tweeting. Well, if they're not happy, they've got to move. If the club's backed Ricky, well, those guys have to move.
That was always one of Wayne Bennett's great strengths why he survived so long at the Broncos, is whenever there was a player who began to agitate a little bit or cause a few troubles, Bennett was quick enough to be able to recognise it and move it on, and then also had the luxury of having a great player coming up behind whoever that was, whether it was a winger getting moved on or a centre or fullback or whatever. He always had someone coming through and just basically sold, the message, we're getting him out, letting him go a season too early rather than season too late. But that was Bennett's way of maintaining control within the playing group.
And we always had, there was a saying, winners have parties, losers have meetings, and he didn't like anybody standing around in small groups bitching. So if guys were standing around in small groups, Wayne would come down on them or just walk over to those guys. So there's Gordon,
they
can't small groups talking about anybody else.
In that respect, the Raiders ripped the Band-Aid off this week in that they had an unhappy halfback in George Williams. He'd been agitating for a release. He wanted a release at the end of the season, and the club decided after he didn't want to show up to training and he told them that he didn't want to play last night, okay, we'll nip this in the bud. There's your release, but you can go effective immediately. And that's the beginning now of the Raiders' rebuild. They're in a fortunate position, similar to the Broncos, Gordon, when you played there, that they have got a great junior talent pool and great junior depth coming through. So
the 90s just won the comp.
Correct. So they won't have to go out and whereas they went out and they bought John Bateman and they bought Josh Hodgson, and they came up with that English recruitment philosophy. They'll probably try and do things a little bit differently this time around. But there's no question, Anthony, like what sparked all this earlier in the year was there was a team meeting. There was a team meeting, and I think Ricky was very direct, which, as we all know, Ricky always is. Some of the players, especially the senior players, they didn't handle it that well. And so as a result of that, we've then seen spot fire after spot fire. Josh Papali'i had a rest for a week. George Williams is now gone. Josh Hodgson, in all likelihood, is going to end up at the Brisbane Broncos. I thought he was, in fairness to Josh Hodgson last night, I thought he had a crack early on.
Yeah,
like I know they got run over the top of, but early on, especially, he had a major hand in getting them to that.
He's a great player, and that's the
10-0
reason
lead.
why the Raiders are in the position, because a lot of it was on the back of him. He's been a great servant, but sometimes, there's a split in the relationship, and it's better just to move on.
And he responded the way you wanted him to respond last night.
The way all champions do.
Yeah, and he went out and showed his worth, and he showed his skills as a player.
He can never
and
be
what
criticised. He
mean.
stuck up for a mate, and that's what you want, because they're the guys that go out there in a battle. So he stuck up for one of his English mates, but he went out there and did his job. So he's showing Ricky that, hey,
He's a
I'm still the man.
professional.
That I'm still the man to do the job, and I know that I don't like what's going on or what you said to me, but I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to go, being the winner that he has been for a long, long time. And that's the way you want your players to react. Say what you say, support your mate, but at the end of the day, you're paid to play football.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
It's incredible, though, Anthony, isn't it, how quickly
it turned.
I don't think anybody saw the wheels coming off. Like, I mean, a lot of experts had the Raiders either winning the comp, being in the grand final, or most certainly being a top four side. But it's now the window's close. Like they there was the 6 again furor in 2019 when they didn't win the grand final that season. Last year they were 80 minutes away, and I think most people thought that with George Williams having another, or having a full season under his belt, and a full preseason, and there was a lot of reason for optimism, but it's gone pear-shaped fast.
But in this modern times, not just in rugby league, but if an employee comes to you and says, "I'm homesick, I need to take some time off," it's kind of like the whole mental health area, isn't it? So then the club's got to probably say, well, is it as straight out dealing with that as it used to be, or does the club have to say, well, hang on, we're going to have to?
It's not like it used to be, but
I think it's disrespectful for people with mental illness, so that you're homesick and tie it into that.
Yeah, but Gordon, it's such a murky area, because the minute
I know it's a murky area, but I think it's
And it's a deadly serious.
But I'll tell you
area as
something,
well.
it's so deadly serious. People with mental health is
Correct.
serious, and to
Yeah.
say that you're homesick's totally different.
Yeah.
I believe than a mental
Well,
health.
further to that as well, and this is where it all became a little bit complicated, was then the stories emerged that his agent was ringing around other clubs over the summer saying, oh, look, he wants to have the full Australian experience. He wants to live close to the beach. He's not that happy in Canberra. So, look, circumstances change, but there was a photograph they showed at Fox League during the week where it was Christmas Day, and Ricky Stewart had a lot of his players over at his own house having Christmas celebrations, and George Williams was there, and Elliot Whitehead was there, and young Tommy Starling was there, and the fact that it's gone south as quick as it has come as a real shock.
But Hoops, is it managers?
of course it is.
They're a factor. They're a factor. Yeah.
They agitate. They're agitating. That's
I wouldn't
and it's
say
so
that's
easy
the
to-
sole reason, though. I wouldn't say that's
No,
that's
it's not a
the
reason.
driving.
But there's
But they're certainly in the background, and there's certainly a couple of theories that there
They
are.
can help
there's-
their client
and we've
and
made
saying,
it-
hey, mate,
we've made it too easy now for players to break contracts. Like the NRL might start need to looking at things, because what happens is managers do a bad deal. They go and get a player, they sign him, they get him a contract for $400,000 a year, and then within 6 months of that contract, he's playing out of his skin, and everyone goes, mate, he's worth $6. And all you need then is the manager, instead of the manager saying to his player, mate, I've done a bad deal for you, mate, I'm sorry about this, but we're going to have to get through these next couple of years, and then we'll get you the big earn. The manager simply says, mate, go and begin to agitate. I'll find another club, get them on the bait. So they'll find another club prepared to pay 6. The minute that club commits, yeah, we'll give him 6. Okay, let's go back to your original club. Ask for a release. If you don't get the release, then start kicking stones around. And so in the end, they go, you know what, this is just no good for us, so we're going to have to move him along. I think we need to start looking at a time where if players are breaking contracts, then whatever club they go to will need to pay the club that he's just left some sort of transfer fee.
Paul, I said it a couple of years ago, right? 20 years ago. It's not about me, but I sat out a year.
Yeah.
St. George board showed some kahunas and stuck to their guns, right? And we had meeting after meeting. I went there and it was deals trying to get done. I stuck my guns. They stuck to their guns. No player since. So I said a couple of, and it wasn't against Ryan Madison. Take the name out. When he was at the Tigers, he's at the Roosters. He was a fringe player. Went to the Tigers, had a great year. Then he sort of did the dirty, like one of those deals what Paul just said. The game should have grown up then and said, hey, hold on, we're going to back you. Let's just draw a line in the sand. He can't move on.
Yeah. And if the, but no, look, Gordon,
and it's not
I
a
get
Jonathan
that.
Thurston moving on, but then if that happened then, Paul, maybe the shot gets,
but where it gets
there's a shot
murky,
across
Gordon,
the bow.
where it does get murky is if it's not, in some instances, and too many of them in rugby league are just about money, and it begins about that because, as I said, the manager's done a bad deal. So he realises if I can get him out of this, I can get him in a new club, and we get the player an upgrade, which then gets the manager more money, coincidentally.
The players have done a bad deal. Do you know how many meetings they probably have?
Yeah, but Gordy,
probably 2 for $50,000.
But my point,
no one's on that much money. Player managers are the highest paid. If I'm a player now, I'm paying him a one-off fee of $5,000 to go over a meeting.
Oh yeah, I tell the story often. I spoke to a player manager one day, and I asked him about one of his clients, who was an Australian player. I said, mate, how do you find him as a bloke? He said, mate, great kid. He said, I only ever see him once every 3 years when it's time to sign his contract. And I thought, what's he need you for?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like you sit there and you clip him for 6% year after year after year, and you see him once in 3 years when it's time to sign the contract. Like, the players don't realise that they're actually the ones with the power in all this.
Players are the boss.
Yeah.
You pay him.
Yeah.
You're his boss.
But the game has got to start bringing some sort of measure. And back to what I was trying to sort of finish before. In some instances, it's not just about money. In some instances, a coach just doesn't like the way a certain player plays. He thinks he's got too many errors in him or whatever. The previous coach did like him or whatever. Or they've had a blue and they can't resolve that. So it is in the best interest of both parties to move along. But I do think if a player is going to go to another club, the NRL needs to start looking at putting in practices. One, if you're breaking a contract, go to a new contract, you're not allowed to get an upgrade, which would stop just those purely selfish reasons that you're going for the money. Or second, the club that you're going to has to pay a transfer fee because they're working in the background agitating. They're saying, mate, we'll take him. You get him here, we'll take him. So if they want to do that, the NRL must say, well, okay, you pay compensation to the club, and that will stop some clubs from engaging in those conversations.
The problem is the clubs have to stick to that.
Yeah, they have to stick to that.
That's the problem.
Yeah, but second to that, Gordon, at least then the club is losing the player who's done the right thing, negotiated a good deal. You know, your mate Nathan Brown said to me, you can never do a good deal in rugby league anymore because the minute you do and you get a player that's on 400 and he's giving you 500 worth of value, they're coming back asking for more money. If they don't get the more money, then they're asking for a release.
Okay, boys, I'm going to take a break here because I really want to get to this. Sydney Morning Herald reporting, players want Volandis out. Who is leading the way with this? Well, we're going to open it up to the experts, Gorden Tallis, Paul Kent, James Triceps, Hooper and Maroon, as Triple M rocks the footy.
Triple M rocks the footy.
Well, welcome back to it. In 20 minutes, we will have kick-off at Coffs Harbour, as that will be the Storm playing the Titans. So far this round, Sharks taking on the Titans. Storm 40, Broncos 12, Cowboys 29, Warriors 28, Tigers 34, Dragons 18, Penrith make it 12 straight with a 30-4 win over the Doggies, South 38, Parramatta 20, Roosters, congratulations to the Roosters too. They just keep on going and they're beating the Raiders 44 points to 16. Well, story in the Sydney Morning Herald today, Hoops, I'm going to throw this over to you straight out of dummy half. The players want Peter Volandis out. This has shocked me.
Yeah, I must say, it caught me out of left field as well, Anthony, but apparently there's a big push on behind the scenes between some of the biggest names in the game. The reports are that Luke Keary and Daly Cherry Evans have been driving this and that they're not happy with the way that Peter Volandis has sprung the current crackdown in relation to high shots upon the game and upon the players. And so as a result, they've been ringing around asking about questions about the Constitution and how you can potentially overthrow the chairman, Kenty.
Yeah, I just think what a disgraceful thing after everything Peter V'landys did to save the game last year. The fact that this decision that they're all up in arms about is about nothing else other than their own protection and welfare. There is not a coin in it for the NRL. There's no other motive other than to protect the players. And yet the players, and Luke Keary, he is more vulnerable to concussions than most in this game. His next concussion could be his last. We've already seen his captain, Boyd Cordner, has still not played this season from concussions. We saw the other captain, Jake Friend, retire this season, mid-season, because of concussions. Luke Keary's been out for weeks in previous seasons because of concussions. Some suffered at training. This rule is for no other reason than the welfare of the players and for the players to sit, and this is the bit that I just can't get my head around, for the players to sit and say they don't like the fact that it was the process Peter V'landys went through where they were not consulted. Why are they complaining if they were going to arrive at the same destination anyway? Because there's no way you can justify it's just a small whack in the face. The fact is, a whack in the face is a whack in the face, and concussions come in all different types. You have, they call them micro concussions, and you have the blackout concussions, from blokes being unconscious on the field to the little white light to the feeling of deja vu again. That feeling of deja vu again, you talk to many players, Gordon, I'm sure you suffered that where you went in, your head got rattled a little bit, and you had this feeling, I've played this game before. That is what they call a micro concussion, and the science so far that we know of is that they are the most dangerous concussions to suffer. So there is a feeling that these are the ones we got to get out. So those ones that the players are now arguing is, mate, it was just, a high tackle, it wasn't intentional. What a ridiculous argument. Yeah. The brain doesn't know whether it was intentional or not. The fact is, you got whacked in the face. You might not be concussed, but they're trying to bring that down. Now, if players can actually, change the way they tackle, you fix this. The other absurdity of this
is it only two players, Paul?
Well, no, the Players Association are getting behind it, so they're getting involved. This is where they're getting a bit of muscle. But the other absurdity of this is that the players are saying that you can't bring it down overnight. You can't learn to re-tackle overnight, okay? That's one of their arguments, that they train like this, you can't change it overnight. Why then do they think being consulted on it would make any difference? What they're gonna argue for a quota? You give us 3 high shots a game, and then we'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then start charging. Like it's just a ridiculous idea. It just shows the immaturity of the playing group, the immaturity of the Rugby League Players Association, and for them to have the temerity now to go after the chairman who saved them so much last year, and just 12 months later they're rallying against him. I cannot believe they are so stupid and so immature to go down this track.
Another key element of it as well is, if you look at, it was introduced in Magic round 10. We saw send-offs, we saw sin bins. Like it was off the charts in terms of the number of those incidents that we saw being punished and penalised. And then the charge sheet would come out and we're seeing record numbers of charges. But here we are, we're only 3 weeks into it this weekend, and all of a sudden already we're starting to see the number of sin bins diminish rapidly. There hasn't been a send-off this weekend, and players are starting to adjust. So that's where I must say that the story did catch me by surprise. That players would be prepared to go behind the scenes like that to try and knife Peter V'landys, who essentially is the one who saved a lot of them last season.
Just take Peter out of it. If they want the rules changed, they all go in and sign a brand new contract now, so that they will never come back at the game.
Yeah,
ever come back at the game. So if the players want it to be, just write that I
You
will
want it to
never
be
come
open
back and
sesame.
yep, and I
But
will never sue the game.
unfortunate part about that, Gordon.
So they wouldn't all be 100% on it.
Yeah, they wouldn't be. And the
They are.
unfortunate part, I don't look. In theory, it sounds great because you're calling the players bluff. But what that does is, if that's the game that you're going to allow to happen, and I don't know where we've arrived at this
But
state
they
where
wouldn't let it happen, Paul,
Well, they-
because they don't want that to happen.
Yeah, that's true. And there'd be players who don't want to sign it, who would feel compelled to sign it because they want to play. And that's the issue. Look, I'm old enough to have covered this game from when all this high tackle, the way the game has evolved, was not part of it. But what we've done is, through weak administration for many, many years, is when the game began to move from basically shoulder in the tackle, hit and drive, to catch and wrestle. And many of these concussions are a result of that. We saw that Adrian Brzezinski wrote a story in the Sun Herald last week saying that from the 6,000 tackles they'd studied, the irony being that most concussions come to the defender, and most are coming more 3.5 times more are coming from the stand-up catch and wrestle technique as opposed to the hit and drive technique. Now, we don't know how many differences there were as far as tackles in that sample were, but this catch and wrestle technique has been around the game now for about 15 years. I think the Roosters probably brought it, first ones to bring it in about 2002, so a little bit longer than 15 years. And the game has gone further and further down this track, and it's been unable to pull the players out of it. So now we've got this situation where when guys get clipped high, which was never tolerated in the game, and in the past years there was always a natural justice that took place. If you clipped a bloke high, your odds on that there'd be a blue after it, and if a bloke was going around and causing a bit of damage with it, someone on the opposition would sort him out at some point. Now, you can't punch and you can't fight, so that's disappeared. So now there's free reign. There's no consequence for these high tackles other than the game needs to step in and protect the players. But the game hasn't been doing that. So now we've got this mindset where the players actually say, you know what? We all do it. It's part of the game. It's not part of the game. It's never been part of the game. And yet now we've got this acceptance to it, that it's okay and it's normal. And I sympathise with the playing group right now because they weren't playing 15, 18, 19 years ago. They're all this is all they know as a game. This is the only tackling style. So they think this is what rugby league is. But it's not what rugby league is. It's where the game allowed it to go. And the game didn't either have the intelligence or the courage to pull it up at some point in the last 15 years. And so we've got to this stage now where we now know far more than we did 15 years ago when it began, what the dangers of concussion are, the long-term ramifications of concussion, and what it can do to your welfare years down the track. And nobody wants to see that. You've only got to see a friend that you knew who is now drawing ducks on the wall and feeding them. To understand that it's not that good.
All right, we might be able to get RLPA, in fact we will, the CEO, Clint Newton, to come on in the next hour so you boys can have a good old chat to him about all that. I'm going to take a break and come back, and we're about 11 minutes away from kickoff of our first game today. It is the Titans taking on the Sharks in Coffs Harbour, and we'll give you score updates too, thanks to Tyre Power, as Triple M rocks the footy. Well, welcome back. Well, we've got a big hour two coming up. We got Paul Momirovski coming on from the Panthers, and Alexandria Rovers Jr., local boy. So we're going to speak to him shortly. And Clint Newton will come on as well. The boys will talk about the Jack DeBellin thing being cleared to play in the NRL. There's plenty to talk about, but right now it's time for this.
Welcome to Maroon's Trivia Night.
All right, boys. Well, and Gorden Tallis has just donated the prize. Because I made them all empty their pockets because somebody's pilfered my wallet and thinks it's very funny.
Maybe you just lost it, Anthony.
But how would I get in the building if I lost it, Hoops?
I don't know, Anthony. I can't
I
answer
think
these
you know I'm
questions.
starting to think
Juvenile
you've got
behaviour
it.
where people are stealing people's wallets and hiding them.
Well, it's happened before, hasn't it?
Well, it has.
When?
You know what's funny? I went in there to read some scripts, to read some ads, and I said, I shouldn't leave my wallet and phone there. And now I can't find it.
Wow.
So, you know.
Where's your phone?
Well, I've got the phone.
Well, you got
but,
the phone.
Mate, you didn't even know where you put your notes either.
Yeah, I found the notes.
And you lost your glasses.
Look,
Yeah, mate.
and then you apologised to us because you said, "Look, I'm sorry, I'm having a shocker."
Yeah. Now, it's no big deal. It's just my wallet, okay? So if you think it's funny, that's fine. I'll get around all week without a wallet.
And don't mention it because that's little Billy. That's
How
little
will I?
Billy's pride.
Yeah, so when Gordy emptied out his pockets, he found a Chupa Chup that says used by August 2018, but never mind, that won't kill you. Are we ready for the questions, boys? It's pretty straightforward today.
Yep.
Your name-
What's the topic,
Topic is
Anthony?
rugby league. So good luck, Hoops. Good luck, everybody. Your name is your buzzer. Question number 1. Of the players that scored for Souths last night, which player didn't score 3 tries?
Gordy,
Yes.
Damien Cook.
And he's leading 1-0. You're going to get the Chopper Chop back. Question number 2. What is the first name of Brad Arthur's son?
Hoops.
Hoops.
Jacob.
Way!
I'd like a recount on that.
One
I thought I was
all.
in
No, I
first.
reckon
all.
Hoops.
1-all.
Really?
How honest of you there, Gordy.
No, hey, mate, I don't care. It's a
Oh,
chomper
yes,
chomp.
you do care.
It's Billy's chomper
It's the
chomp.
prestige.
Sorry, Billy.
All right, the next question. Last year's Origin Series, what city hosted the
Gordy.
first?
Hoops.
Yes.
Adelaide.
And it's 2-1.
I'm just getting left behind.
Aren't you, mate?
I know,
Because
it's all right.
we've just
Okay.
done your trick. Just say it. mate.
I know.
No, it's too
No,
simple for you.
I'm being handicapped, mate. I'm carrying 60 kilos.
All right, I'm gonna
Might be 64.
What? What did you do?
I'm gonna throw in one that you'll get right, mate. Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Craig Fitzgibbon. Hello, Fitz, if you're listening. First
Paul.
played first. Yes, Paul.
Illawarra.
And it's 2-1-1. Well done, Paul.
St George.
The next question.
No,
No,
Illawarra.
it
He
was
was
Illawarra
Illawarra
Steelers.
first, yeah.
That was the trick in the question.
Okay, the next question will be, right now, what team is running second outright?
Paul. Melbourne.
And it's now 2-2, and
Ooh.
Hoops is on 1. All right, next question will be...
It's good for hoops, though.
yeah, it is, actually.
And Hoops has named his ducks as well.
In last year's State of Origin series,
Duffy and Donald.
what player was named Player of the
Paul.
Series? Paul.
Munster.
Oh, he's come from absolutely nowhere.
Aye.
Congratulations,
It's just
Paul.
like Burnborough. Carrying 64, got the grandstand on his back,
Yeah.
comes home.
Yes, bloody, you give him a
Just
little
the crowd
start, didn't you,
favourite,
mate?
mate. He's like Winks.
Anyway,
crowd favourite.
Yeah, he's the crowd favourite. Well, boys, that's it. Congratulations, you've won the Chuppa Chup, and we're going to take a break and come back with Hour 2 as Triple M rocks the footy. Welcome back to it. Cronulla and Gold Coast underway. 2 minutes gone, 0-0. No score there, thanks to Tyre Power. Gorden Tallis, Paul Kent, James Hooper and Maroon. We've got plenty to get through, and right now on the phone, the RLPA CEO, Clint Newton, joins us. Hello, Clint.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Nice to have you on, mate. What, you were just driving around and you heard us and you called in? This is a pretty important one.
Like anything in rugby league, sometimes your weekends don't end up how they planned. So just one of those mornings.
Well, you don't really get weekends in rugby league, unfortunately, Clint. Listen, mate, I just want to ask you.
No, we don't.
So, why are you looking to now have Peter V'landys removed? Why such an extreme action?
No, well, I think it's an extremely big speculative comment, because that's
Well, Danny
not what
Wadler
I'm
wrote
about.
that in the Sun Herald today. So you're...
Yep, no, and that's fine, and I'll answer it. But at the end of the day, I'm not about overthrowing people. The players are not wanting to control the game. We are about securing the best outcomes for the game, players, clubs, and fans. And again, this isn't about any one person's view. It's my job to take forward the collective view, and that's what we plan to do.
Okay.
I think we've just got to bring this back into focus, Paul.
No. Well, if you're securing best outcomes, why would you want V'landys removed?
Well, that's the whole point, Paul, is the fact that that's been said, but that's not what we need to focus on.
What do you need to focus on then?
Well, this is about, working through a process, and ensuring that we have a genuine and respectful opportunity to have dialogue
Oh,
in
come on,
advance
Clint.
of
Come
any
on. Just
sug-
let's
a-
leave
any
the corporate
suggested
talk alone
changes.
and tell us the nitty gritty. I don't want outcomes and all that sort of rubbish. Just tell us what he has done that has upset the players so much.
Well, this isn't about any one particular decision. We've got to this point really because of the reality of all of this is that it all goes away if there's a choice to communicate and engage with us more respectfully and listening to players. And I think
So how many more weeks while you sat down and went through the process and all that and had the meetings and all that, how many more weeks were the players prepared to cop concussions while you sat down and negotiated what was always going to be the outcome anyway, that you're not allowed to tackle high?
No, Paul, you just sort of took it back to there. As I said, it's not about
well, this is what's driving it, though, Clint.
No,
this is what's driven it.
Paul, I know you're on radio, and I know.
Don't talk to me like that, Clint. Don't talk to me like that.
No, what I'm saying, Paul, is
no. We'll just answer the question instead of all this corporate gobbledygook that you're spruiking. Tell us in real terms what the problem is.
We've had this conversation before, right? About you not allowing people to speak. And if you're going to get me on the show,
well, say something. Say something. Don't sit there and talk all this stuff that people need a manual to figure out what you're saying.
But this is the problem, Paul. Emotion takes control, like you are right now. Let me speak, and then we can work through it. Okay? So the players absolutely appreciate the concern on their health and safety, and on policy enforcement. Washington. I've said that time and time again, and I've said that to you in private conversations about this isn't about that. We understand the rationale. They were your words that you and I discussed.
Yep.
And I absolutely respect that. So let's not misrepresent the situation about that this is about the crackdown. It's not. The players are frustrated at the moment, and we've made that clear to the NRL. And if I'm being honest, we shouldn't be here speaking about this right now. That we've got an opportunity to improve what is currently going on and allow the players to have a voice and be engaged up front in the conversations when decisions are made that impact on them. That's what we're trying to focus on.
Clint, can I ask you one simple question? Do the players want Peter V'landys removed as the Australian Rugby League Commission chairman or not?
That's not my understanding. My understanding is that players, and I've spoken to a number of players this morning, is that they want change in how things are being worked through. And again, that's my job, is to make sure that we're not putting out there in the public domain any one person view that gets represented as the collective.
Well,
that's not what
why
we're
these players then, Clint, speaking anonymously? Why not have the courage to put your name to your quotes? And to your point about speaking collectively, they have not done that. They've gone off reservation and they are speaking individually, but anonymously. And it's pretty gutless, to be honest.
No, I think that like anything here, Paul. No, I don't think so. I think in the game, like we have to allow people to speak freely.
Well, they're not speaking freely. They're speaking under the cloak of anonymity.
Again, just let me get through it. And that's fine. But in this game, plenty of people have done that before, Paul. And there's lots of things that can have consequences.
But they're
when
not
people
also
are speaking,
claiming.
no,
They're not. But
just,
no,
again,
Clint, listen to me. I'm not going to let you go and say these rubbish comments that go uncontested.
That's not. No, but
so if I want to interrupt, I'll interrupt when you say something that's rubbish.
Well, how you're behaving at the moment is where we need to be.
Mate,
it is. So let us work through it, okay? There will always
We don't want to go around
opinions.
in circles, Clint. With respect, we don't want to go around in circles with answers that don't actually say anything.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, there will always be different opinions and perspectives between individual players. There will always be that. And I'm not going to muzzle players, because the moment you do that, you're taking away people's rights to speak, right? So at the end of the day, our role, like I've said, is to represent the collective. Players want an improved process that allows them to feel properly respected. And that's what we're going to work through. That's what we've committed to work through with the NRL. I've spoken to Peter and Andrew about that. And at the end of the day, we've got to this point because things haven't been worked through.
Okay, Clint, so if this is about what's best for the game, and you're telling us that the players are there for what's best for the game, why not just get on board?
Get on board with what?
With the crackdown on the high tackles. Why do not the players say to themselves?
I just spoke to you before. It's not about just the crackdown. They understand it and they are supportive of all the things.
So
that
what
are
are the
going
other
towards
problems?
health and
So
safety.
Clint, just so we understand it in black and white, what are the other problems then? What are the other grievances?
Well, the other grievances are around, again, how decisions are being made.
So it's lack of consultation.
No, forget consultation. It's down to allowing people the right opportunity to engage in respectful conversations. And that's what the NRL have committed to work through. Again, the word consultation, unless you actually align on the definition of that, then that can mean all sorts of different things to people. At the end of the day, this is about giving us a genuine opportunity to have a say on things that impact on the players.
Right. And so what guarantee then if you get your consultation, given the players haven't bought in so far on this isolated crackdown. Why?
You're coming back to one.
I'm using this as an example.
One incident.
I'm using this as an example because it's the most recent example, Clint.
You can't bring it back to just one thing. Clint.
What else? What else then? Other than what else? What other things?
A number of things that we've worked through, and we've expressed that, and now players, yes, have spoken freely and openly in recent times, and that's okay. You know, I think we just have to make sure that let's bring it back into focus.
Right. Clint, can I ask this, right? What about the appreciation and the respect for the fact that while a lot of industries, thousands of people around the world last year, millions of people around the world were impacted by COVID-19, had to sit down, had to stop being paid, had to forfeit hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? What about the fact that Peter V'landys fought tooth and nail to get the game back up and running as quickly as possible because he realised that if we had a sit down of any longer than 6 weeks, that it was going to be sayonara all over and it would take the game years and years and years to recover. And the players wouldn't have only been taking 20% haircuts or whatever it ended up shaking out as, it would have been a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, and listen, at the end of the day, James, I think everyone got on board with trying to save the game last year.
Well, no, they didn't, Clint.
The reality is,
there's no appreciation of that now.
No, let me say this, Clint, because you'll be aware of this, which is not in the public. No, let me just say this first.
I got a question asked to me. Let me finish it.
All right.
And then we can work through your question, right? So at the end of the day, everyone got on board last year. The players, the clubs, and the administration. We all collectively worked together to get the game back. The players chose to take the field in uncertain circumstances where they weren't 100% sure of the impact of what COVID was going to provide. They also agreed to save the game economically by agreeing to a new set of financial arrangements that went a long way to save the game and the clubs. That's the role that they played. Everyone played their role.
Okay.
Peter's role as chair and the leader of the game at that time was to try and get the game back as quick as possible, which he succeeded because everyone bought in, they knew what roles they had to play, and the players played a significant role in doing that.
Yeah, and in that role and in those negotiations, the players who profess to be thinking about the welfare of the game and the welfare of each other tried to argue that the 30-man salary cap be reduced to 26, so you lose 4 players, so the bottom 4 players were going to lose their
no, that's wrong.
No. You put
no, it's wrong.
Clint,
It's wrong.
I'm not going to name the player on air, but I know it happened. And you guys, if you're going to sit there and say this stuff, then at least be upfront about it. You also wanted to reduce development players from 5 to 2. And V'landys was the one that looked after the working class player, the bloke that's on the bottom end of the salary cap, and actually insisted that it's not going to get dropped from 30 to 26. It's going to stay at 30, and development players are going to stay at 5 and not get dropped to 2, which would have only saved money for the big end players. But instead, they had to take something of a haircut. But the fact is this, that the players, the senior players who are supposed to be representing everyone as a group were pushing for that. And V'landys was the one, and the NRL was the one that said, we're not going to do that.
So the players sit there.
Well, you're just going to deny it, Clint. But
no, I'm not. I'm going to tell you what went on.
Clint, you said that the players is not about the crackdown. Luke Keary, who is linked to this, who's been named as part of this, said on radio on Friday it was about the crackdown.
No, it's not.
Well, no, but he said that, Clint.
Yeah,
so you tell me it's not about that, but your own players. So whether you lost control of these guys or not, I don't know. But the fact is your own players seem to be pumping out messages that you're now refuting. So I don't know where it's getting lost in the message process, but the fact is you say it's not about the crackdown. Keary said on radio it was. At the end of the day,
mate, like if you want to have a respectful conversation with someone, you don't just keep talking over the top of people.
Clint, you're doing a pretty good job of it.
You've asked me 3 separate questions in a space of 1 minute. So let me go back to the whole part about the player contracting system. It wasn't about removing it. It was about apportioning those contracts into the state cup, which would have allowed them to continue to get contracted. It wasn't about
they didn't play in the state cup. Come on.
What?
The state cup didn't play last year.
It was for this year. The revisions were about for this year, not for last year.
Which takes them out of the salary cap.
No, it doesn't. No, it takes them out of the cap, but it reapportions their money over into the state cups. It doesn't lose employment. right? So
Yeah,
that's
but
the
what
thing.
it
That's
also
the
does, Clint, the flip side,
hang on,
the other side of that is that the 9.5 million salary cap then gets split between 26 players instead of 30. And given that the higher paid players are the ones with all the bargaining power, they were the ones that were set to cash in on it.
No, but
And they're the ones that are tipping to you, and they're the ones that are in on the committee,
No, they're not.
and they're looking after themselves and not the lower paid
Paul,
players.
I couldn't speak highly enough about our
Oh,
senior
I've got no
players at the
doubt.
moment, and I think that it's disrespectful to
No,
say
it's not.
that our
It's
leadership. No, it's not. To say that our leadership group at the moment don't care about the players at the bottom. They couldn't be more selfless with how they've worked through things where they had an opportunity to take a bigger slice. They didn't. They had an opportunity via Origin.
They pushed for the opportunity. They didn't have the opportunity to knock it back. They pushed for it, and the Landys knocked it back.
You weren't in the negotiation.
Look, I've spoken to enough for work.
You're getting one side of the information,
right, and you're not.
And you're misrepresenting the situation.
No, I'm not.
You are. Yes, you
Clint,
are.
there seems to be a gross lack of gratitude coming through here from the players, given everything that Peter V'landys did and the administration at the NRL did to try and save the entire rugby league playing group last year from having to lose millions of dollars like a lot of other people around the world
We've gone
did.
through this question, and I said everyone was a part of that process. Everyone played a significant role. And the players, arguably had a disproportionate role to play in it based on what they had to do. And it's not about lacking gratitude. It's about not just continuing
Disproportionate. People lost their jobs, Clint.
No. It was about
People
our
are
industry.
still unemployed from it.
It's about our industry. Players were acutely aware of what was going on
what
around
about Canterbury? Everyone at Canterbury, all the football department, all had to basically work for nothing.
Yeah, but at
Those
the
that
end of the
didn't
day,
lose their
players
jobs.
took on the responsibility to do what they could to save the game, and that was to take the field and agree on a new set of economic standards that had previously been
There's
agreed
no
to.
doubt, Clint. But to hold yourselves up as doing something more noble is a bit much.
No, I didn't say more noble.
Well, no, I did.
That's what
but
you
that's,
said.
But that's what you're representing.
No, I didn't. I said it was disproportionate because of the role that they played. Because if
Righto,
they don't
we'll wrap
take
it
the
up.
field-
Can we just clarify, please, Clint? Do the players want Peter V'landys removed as the Australian Rugby League Commission chairman or not?
That is not what has been said to me. And so what they're wanting is a change with regards to how things have been worked through. And that's what the NRL have committed to doing, is to work with us. Our job is to bring forward the views of the collective.
So where
and
did
that
this
is
story?
important to have respect.
Where does
for
this story
each
today come
individual
from?
comment.
Where did this story today come from then?
With
Who's
what
broke
regards?
ranks with the anonymous players talking to Weidler saying that they want V'landys out? Who broke ranks from your organisation?
Well, it wasn't about our organisation.
Well,
it's
yeah,
about
it was
players
because
still
it's the
feeling-
player.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we have 480 players plus another 80 to 100 women that we represent. At the end, everyone has a right of free choice. And if any one individual feels, that's okay for them to feel that
Okay,
way.
why wouldn't
And
they
then
name themselves?
We bring forward the views of everyone, and then we take that forward to the NRL. That's our job. Our job is to work with the current administration to get the best outcomes for the game.
But see,
And I think we did a damn good job last year in working together
we get mixed
to get
messages.
the best outcomes for the
we
game.
get mixed messages. See, the players have been saying for the past few weeks it's too difficult to change tackling style overnight, and yet in the next breath we're told that with some consultation they'll help the NRL achieve this. So what would be said in the consultation that would magically enable them to change their tackling styles overnight, which they can't do now, and which would all be resolved if they did just change their tackling styles now?
Again, we're going back to this.
No,
one
just it was
specific
a simple
thing.
question.
No, okay. Well, the simple question is the process wasn't done to the best of
no,
its
we know
ability.
that.
And
we know that.
right?
But what I'm saying
and
is
you
if
and
the
I have
players
spoken about
were...
that, Paul.
I know that. I know. You say it
Right,
wasn't...
so you agree.
No, I'm saying the process...
You
You say
agreeing
the
that the process didn't follow to the best way it could have.
According to
secure
you,
the
I
best
don't
outcome.
know. No,
well,
sometimes
you've
I
said
like
it
a
too.
boss as the boss. Okay.
You've said it too, that it wasn't the right process.
No, I didn't. I've
And
never
that's
said it
okay.
wasn't the right process.
And we can work through that.
But
that's what we've said to do with the game. Because
Okay.
at the end of the day, what
But
we
answer-
needed to
yeah,
do
I
was
still
to
haven't
ensure
answered-
that players had an opportunity to work through it, understand it, get
Okay.
on board, which they are on board with, to make sure
Okay,
that we don't have a
okay.
situation like we had 2 weeks
So
ago. And
why
that's
have
the
they not got on
opportunity we have
board, or
to
why
move
can't they
forward.
understand it after 3 weeks? And what part of consultation would actually fix that?
In what regards?
Well, yeah, the players are saying with consultation, you just said right then, with consultation, the players could have worked it to achieve what the NRL's after.
Yeah.
Okay, why can't they do it now anyway that the NRL has implemented the rule?
Because they're trying to, Paul. But at the end of the day,
why would the consultation change anything?
Well, the consultation means that we have a better chance of success, isn't it?
What?
Isn't the outcome?
Why? How?
Well, because at the end of the day, if let's use the terminology, the example of government, right? So if they wanted to introduce, the crackdown on mobile phones, do you think that what process did they work through? They allowed people to understand what they're bringing in. They put a definitive date down and they worked through it. And then what they did is they allowed everyone to understand.
This is a safety issue, Clint.
Yeah, I understand that. This
is players' brains.
But concussion was no bigger issue on May 4, April 15, January 30 than what it is now, right?
But when it became apparent to the NRL,
if we wanted to work through it, if we wanted to get the best outcome, which was compliance, which was to ensure that everyone understood what was going on.
They do understand. They understood after the first week, and instead of accepting it, they argued and bitched and moaned and continued to take on the NRL. When your industry is being changed around you without being worked through, we're going to fall short on the outcomes that we're looking to achieve. That's the reality of it. And at the end of the day, that's the opportunity. We can do things better. That's the opportunity that will come from this.
Clint and Scotty, but isn't it? But when it's changed for the better, and it's about their safety, don't you think that every player should be on board anyway?
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, Gordy, no one's not understanding the value of protecting player welfare, player health and safety. And we've done countless things to work through that. It's not just about this one matter.
Well, what are some of the other issues?
We've spoken about those, like about the working through when you're changing rules, on players and working through that process and listening to them about their grievances and feeling like they've got a voice. And that's the part that if you don't feel like you're being listened to, then there's going to be a breakdown. And like I said before, this comes all the way back to just communication.
But there's more stakeholders than just the playing group.
I know that. Yeah. And there are other stakeholders that'll be looking for the same thing. So at the end of the day, we can absolutely use this as an opportunity to say, are we getting things right at the moment? And I think if everyone looked at themselves with some humility and with some respect of all parties, you would be saying, no, things aren't working through to the best of our ability to get the best outcomes.
So what are you doing?
Commit to that.
What part of exploring ways to remove Peter V'landys that the RLPA is supposedly exploring right now, according to this morning's story? What part of that? What are you doing there?
No, you said the RLPA are exploring things about removing.
Well, that's what
Peter.
Wide the Road.
I've not explored things.
Well,
about
he says
Peter.
the players are doing that, and he's quoting anonymous players who are part of your group.
Players are doing that, but at the end of the day, that's players are entitled to have their view on how they see the game operating. I know for a fact, players are not wanting to control the game. They're not wanting to have
Sounds like they are, doesn't it?
Have a massive overthrow, because that's not what our business is about. That's not how our organisation runs. So at the end of the day, all stakeholders are going to have to work through it and come up with ways to make sure.
Why not just get on board given the decision's already there?
It's not about this one decision. You keep going back to this one decision. It's about a whole raft of different things that I'm working through with the NRL that you're not privy to make sure that we can engage in a better way to get better outcomes. That's what this comes down to.
All right. Well, Clint, we'll let you go, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on today, and the best of luck with it.
No, not a problem.
There he is, Clint Newton from the RLPA. He is CEO, and we thank him so much for coming on today. We might even see if we can't cut the best bits out of that and get that back on after 3 o'clock. But I tell you what, Paul, if we were playing rugby league, we'd give you a spell on the interchange now, because you have absolutely gone 100 miles an hour for 20 minutes there. Welcome back to it. It's, at the Gold Coast are getting beaten by the Sharkies. I think the Sharkies have just gone in again, boys. I'm just waiting for them to flash the score up there for Tyre Power. While I'm doing that, a 26-6, Cronulla lead the Gold Coast. So there we go. Now, get on board a Sea-Doo. I've forgotten the fact or missed the fact that Sea-Doo has jumped on board as our major sponsor, Australia's #1 choice in personal watercraft. Looking for an escape or an adventure? No passport, no worries. Get on board a Sea-Doo and discover why Sea-Doo is Australia's #1 choice in personal watercraft. See things differently with Sea-Doo. Our man Spud Carroll, he practically lives on his Sea-Doo, doesn't he?
He loves his Sea-Doo, and he reckons sometimes he sees you starting to take yours out off Little Kongwong.
Yeah, I do get down there in my man thong and with the drone and just have
a man thong.
Yeah, just put the man thong on and go down there.
I think it's called a mankini.
Oh, well, I call it a man thong festa. I don't know what you call it in Brisbane, but in Little Bay we call it a man thong, okay? If I want to be corrected.
Not a lot
How's
to
it
call
go
in Little
down?
Bay either.
Pardon?
There's not a lot of them to call.
No, that's
in
exactly
Little Bay
right.
either.
Well, there is one.
How's it received? The man.
Oh, look,
thong?
it's not received. It's just like, but when I lie down, it's just too well tanned.
He gets razors thrown at him. That's how it gets received.
Is there many other people on the beach or
well, depending on how the weather is, but I go down rain, hail, or
Religiously.
shine. I go down religiously in the Sea-Doo, oiled up, oiled up, lubed up, ready to go, and having a little bit of fun on the Sea-Doo. So we got them on board too. No passport, no worries. Get on board a Sea-Doo and discover why it's Australia's #1 choice in personal watercraft. Cronulla 26, Gold Coast 6, and it's time for this.
From the makers of The Earth is Flat and I'm only having one beer comes I Call BS.
All right, so I call BS. This is where the boys find something to just blow up about, have a whinge about, and say, how hard is it? Like, how hard is this, Gordy? When I was going to pick you up today from the airport, I called in to get a toasted sandwich, ham, cheese, and I said, do you want anything? And you said no.
Yes, you did ask. I said no.
And but mate, you get back to the car. I think I might have had this whinge before, where like a toasted sandwich, they cut the top piece of toast and they don't cut all the way through the bottom. I mean, if you can't even cut a toasted sandwich, and that's your job to cut a toasted sandwich, and you can't cut a toasted sandwich, stay home, honestly, or don't cut it at all. Don't cut the top bread and not the bottom bread, because it's just ridiculous. And that's what I call BS on today. Would anybody else like to call BS in the room? Hoops.
I'm going to give BS a spell this week, Anthony.
Right.
I don't want to get the axe out. We've already had the axe sharpened a fair bit today.
Yeah, we have, haven't we?
I feel like just leaving the axe in the holster and giving it a little bit of a rest for
Is an axe go in a holster?
today. No, I'll leave it next to the wood.
I've got a food-related one.
Okay, go, yeah.
When you order Uber Eats and they charge you extra because it's coming from such a distance,
Right.
why do they then give it to a bloke on a push bike to deliver it?
Oh.
You're paying extra to get delivery, and they give it to a bloke on a push bike, so by the time you get your meal, it's cold.
Oh, Paul, I couldn't agree with you more. I got a pizza up on the Goldie, and the bloke had to come from the pizza joint on the other side of the Southport Bridge and on a push bike down into the Goldie.
But if you're paying extra freight for the delivery, then surely that should be a car that gets
mate, I agree.
Oh, this is a serious. There should be some sort of investigation into this.
Do you know who I blame?
Who?
Clint Newton. I blame Clint Newton for that.
Mate,
can we get him on the phone and ask him to explain, or we don't want to burn 15 minutes?
I'm going to call BS. You know when you jump on a plane, right? And I fly a hell of a lot, and I like a window seat because sometimes you're tired and it gives you just that little bit extra room. If you sit in the aisle seat, I'm sick of that trolley hitting you up and down. They run over your feet. People bump you and there's no apologies or whatever. And you got to always get up if people want to go to the toilet. So I always get the window, and I'm there.
So
I'm
an aisle man myself.
Yeah, see, but you're that small. Do your
But
feet
you're
touch
not
the ground when you
6
sit in the seat?
Well, if you're being a smart ass about things, there actually is less room in the window than the aisle, if you want to know. But
Well,
anyway,
for me, it's not
I
right.
wonder what your
so I
feet are
sit
doing in
against
the aisle to
window,
get them run over.
in 1A. No. Anyway, so you sit there, right, and the sun's beating down on you, so you pull like your own little window shade down.
It's not your own. It's the aisles. So go on,
No,
Mr. Selfish. Tell us why.
Because I'm on the
some
window,
of the aisles
right?
about to blow up here, and you're going to say, mate, it's my
So
window.
I'm on the window. No, I'm the window seat, so I close the blind, and they tell you to open it up.
Why do they do that?
I don't know. What? That's not a safety issue. That's
It
not going to
is.
make the
You're
It
landing.
is because if
Well, when you're taking off?
because you need to be able to see if the engine is on fire.
Oh,
And what am I
that's
going
what
to
it
do?
is.
I've got to have a seatbelt on. The pilot's got to know that.
No,
So I'm going to stop the engine on fire.
No. The host, the
The host
hosties.
is sitting down in the jump seat with her
Well, they want to
seatbelt
be able
on.
to look out the window too, though. If everyone closes their window, you can't see. It's a safety issue, Gordon. And we're all about safety on this show.
Okay, so 15 minutes up into the air, you're allowed to pull it down then.
Well,
So then,
It's too late by then. If it's on fire, you can't say, abort.
well, but maybe what you could do is
and then the tray table's down with my drink on, and they tell me to put it up.
I know,
If I trap
yeah.
myself there and we die, that's fine. It's my safety
Yeah,
issue.
but what if you trap me there? That's not fine.
No,
See,
because
that's my
you're
problem.
in the aisle, so you can trap all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I'm in the
But
window
you'd be
seat,
very
I can.
upset if I trapped
I should
you.
be allowed to do whatever I want with my own window shade and my own tray
I
table.
agree.
And then because she told me to pull the shade bloody window up and put the table up, she got the shits with me. Then she didn't even offer me a bicky or a drink.
I love how you get on the plane
And
and
I
assume
might
it's
be a
your
little
window.
bit fat, and
for
I
you.
get the little belt help on the way down. But then she wouldn't even offer me a drink.
Yeah, right.
She paid me back.
Well, I'm gonna next time I get on the plane, I'm gonna put the little
Bloody
blind
Tiger
down.
Airlines.
And if they say they're closed down, if they say anything, I'm going to say I am exercising the Gorden Tallis rule. By the way, Rex, though, there's Rex Airlines flights to the Goldie now. Sorry, Hoops.
I've had to think about the BS. I've decided we will get the axe back out, Anthony.
Right.
Okay, so you were storming around here earlier this afternoon, like Roger Rogerson in the old days, the armed hold-up squad, grabbing people, accosting, where's my wallet? Who's got my wallet? Where's it
The old
gone?
shirt front.
Mate, it turns out it was on the floor. You've dropped it,
Yes.
and it's right in front of your beak the whole time.
Mate, you put it there. You put it there. You know you did. You know
False.
you did.
No.
You know I'm not that
False.
stupid. All right, I'll go
Not
to the
true.
video and check
Yeah,
it.
good.
I'll go to the
Go
video.
go to the video.
I would be very surprised if you are here next
You
week.
said you
right?
wanted to apologise.
Yep.
Do you stand by that or not? Because
I'm
you
not
did
apologise.
apologise
You
to
put
us
the
earlier.
wallet under
I didn't
there,
touch the
Hoops.
wallet, mate.
Well, Kenty did. One of you lied to
No,
my
no,
face.
You can't
Don't
go making
start fingering
allegations,
him.
mate.
How
Don't
would...
start pointing fingers elsewhere.
Okay, right. I
How
don't know where you're
how
going with that.
How certain are you that you didn't actually drop your wallet?
Well, how would I drop the wallet? This table's about 8 foot in diameter. How would I drop the wallet halfway? I'd have to drop it and kick it, wouldn't I?
Well, you're capable of that, Anthony.
No,
you're
I-
not a very sync person. You're not much coordination there at all.
No.
If I drop
Yeah.
my wallet, I don't
Can
kick
you
it.
Tell
can
you
you
what,
rub your
you're-
tummy and pat your head or not?
No,
Or
I haven't
Your
tried
wallet's
it.
that full of cash, it might have just rolled.
It's not cash. It's not cash. It's all receipts that he can claim. Seriously, it's when you didn't break your toe when you kicked it.
Mate, it's not. I don't know what it's.
It is conservatively an inch and a half high. Your
Well,
It's
let's
wallet.
just
very.
check
It is.
that.
Why is the
It's full of
the
receipts.
thickness of
Look,
your
it's
wallet?
all
Why
receipts.
is
He's
it
got
so?
a claim.
Why
He
is
does all
there so
his-
much volume in there?
well,
Is
let's
there any
see.
freight?
I've got my Bankston
Where's all the
RSL
folding?
membership card.
Oh,
Because you
here
know
we
what he
go.
does? So he does all his cash jobs. He pays he earns about $6 in official wages, and then he just puts in hundreds of dollars worth of receipts for all sorts of things, and ends up coming out profiting for the year.
This is actually very disappointing. He's got $10, a little bit of loose change.
God, Henry
Some,
Lawson
he's
just
signed
blinked.
in at when he leaves, and there's a parking ticket.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how things get on. I don't know how things are
I
at
know, but
Fox.
Henry Lawson just blinked. It's that bright. That's the first time that wallet's been opened up.
I don't know how things are like at Fox League, but A, here at Triple M, you don't lift someone's wallet off the table, and B, you certainly don't pick it up and look in it. Let's take a break.
Triple M rocks the footy. The Sunday sin bin for Sea-Doo.
Welcome back. Half-time, Sharks 26, Titans 6. And, of course, once again, welcome and thanks to our sponsors. Great to have them on board. Get on board a Sea-Doo and discover why it is Australia's #1 choice in personal watercraft. Sea-Doo, it's time for this.
This is Maroon Confidential.
Yeah, well, this is where we just thanks for everybody who's contacted us here. I think I can feel a stitch up coming
I
on
love
here
your
because
network of spies. They're everywhere.
is there a stitch up here because everyone's looking at me and I haven't done anything
No, because it's your segment.
right.
Your
We're
segment,
just waiting
mate,
for you to
everyone's-
talk. That's your job,
Okay.
bringing us in and out of
All right,
breaks.
I know, it
It's an
just seemed
award-winning segment.
a lot of urgency to have this segment before Paul goes, and now everyone's looking at me. All right, here we go.
Current oil level is very high.
I wonder why. Now, spotted Gorden Tallis at Brisbane Airport speaking to one Eon Crossan. Is that true, Gordon?
Yes, it is.
What happened? Where did you find Eon Crossan?
I was lining up to grab a coffee, and I saw a guy, and I sort of recognised his face, and it was Ian Crossan. Played for Sharks and South.
He did, yeah.
And come over from rugby union, a Kiwi guy.
He come over from rugby, didn't he? Yeah. I remember he saved South a couple of nights. A good goal kicker.
Great goal kicker.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
used to put the black
Yeah.
Did he?
The black
paint under
The
the
MCO
eyes.
Cup
Yeah,
style.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Sometimes last year I was thinking you were doing that, but you'd just been out on a big night, had you?
Yeah, I just do that at home sometimes, on a Friday or Saturday night. Yeah. Just put
When
it
the
on,
wife's not home, he
try-
just whacks a bit of makeup on.
trying to avoid the glare.
Good mascara. I won't be
All right.
Ozzy Osbourne.
All right, here we
Alice
go.
Cooper.
What about this one? What Triple M identity booked himself in to go to Magic Round, but he booked the plane tickets into Brisbane 1 week late and still went to Brisbane anyway 1 week after Magic Round? This Triple M identity has a lot to do with a certain Hollywood movie star who is also Australian. That's all it says here. So a Triple M identity said, I'm going to go up to Magic Round.
Gus Worland.
It could be Gus Worland. That's who I think it is, Gus Worland.
There we go.
All right.
What was he doing then?
Well, he must have said, I'm
He
not
must
going
have
to...
found it pretty empty once he got there.
I love how solid you are in terms of protecting people. He's just gone straight under the L9, he poor
Yes.
guy.
Well, I mean, I didn't know it was him, but I'm just reading what it says
Well, no,
here.
you're supposed to know.
confirmed that it was.
It's your segment.
I know it's my segment.
Well,
So-
you're just throwing rumours out there that you don't even know who they are or if they're right.
And who
Yeah,
told you?
I'll tell you what, you are on fire today. I'm not going to argue.
Seriously.
I've seen what happened to poor old Clint Newton, so I'm just going to stay right away.
No, he's all right.
All right. Now, this one comes from colourful Alexandria Rovers identity Ray Toomer, who says Larry Corowa missed his flight back to the Goldie on Saturday after attending the Tigers game, and he had to drive Larry Corowa back to back to the airport to catch a Virgin flight. So that's great to see. Larry Corowa was in Sydney with his old mates at the Tigers. He was a great player, wasn't he, Larry?
I love watching Larry
Yeah.
play.
No one could catch him. No one could catch Larry.
And the great blocker wrote said he's the only guy that the whole hill. He goes like when he used to go to Leichhardt, he goes when he got the ball, the whole hill would stand up with anticipation.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of standing on that hill and watch him score some wonderful tries. Maxi Fagar, who is an up and coming rugby league player, was seen on a plane coming back from Magic Round. Have a listen to this one. Max Fagar on a plane coming back from Magic Round, watching Tom and Jerry on his iPhone and giggling away so loud that everybody could hear. So there you go. That's
Wow.
Yeah.
Gee whiz,
What
you're
about
really
this?
setting the
Yeah.
bar high with this stuff.
okay,
I'll tell you what, there's a theme emerging here.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff around airlines and people being spotted at airport lounges.
Well, that's where
and
I hang around the
that
airport.
sort
I
of
hang around the airport all day.
Does this
you know what?
coincide with your?
He's out finding
does this
luggage.
coincide with Rocket Industries' trip to Magic Round a couple of weeks ago?
The last one was going to be about an airport too, so we're going to dump it.
Bring it back. Come on, it's part of the segment.
Look, listen.
Come on, finish it off. Finish it off with a high because you haven't so
Come
far.
on, finish strong.
I'm not paid to sit around
You
here
are.
Come on,
and
just-
get kicked all day by you three. Half time, Cronulla 26, Gold Coast 6. The Titans will bounce back, and that's where we'll leave you, Paul, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And as I understand, Benji Marshall has answered his mobile phone and he's coming up the elevator as we speak. We'll catch you on NRL 360.
So, yeah.
See you then. We'll take a break and come back with more as Triple M rocks the footy. Welcome to hour 3 of our show, 4 o'clock. Big game this afternoon. It's Manly taking on the Newcastle Knights, and Dan will call that one for you. We'll get the boys' thoughts on that a little later on. Now we've got Cronulla 26 leading the Gold Coast 6. Fair income. The Gold Coast Titans, Gorden Tallis. They are honestly
What?
the
What are you
biggest
gonna say? Here we go.
imposters since
Here
Milli
we go.
Vanilli, I say.
Oh, pass it.
Anyway, we welcome into the show this hour.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. What did you say?
You weren't listening. Don't
No,
tell me.
well, mate,
Don't
well,
tell
because we
me.
just made a break. We're
Right.
going to score. Oh, he got taken out.
26-6
That's a penalty.
Cronulla lead the Gold
That's
Coast.
a penalty.
So, okay, you can't commentate the game.
I'm not.
We don't have the rights to commentate that
I'm
game.
watching the soccer.
Right. Okay, he's watching the soccer on the other channel. Benji Marshall, welcome to you.
Thanks, mate.
Congratulations, a win yesterday, back in the winning circle.
Much needed, but I've missed a couple of weeks. We're in the NRL bubble a couple of weeks ago,
Yep.
and then we had Magic Round, and then had to play last Sunday, so I've missed you.
Oh, I've missed you too,
No, I'm
mate.
lying. I didn't miss you.
No, I didn't really either. But it's good to have you here, mate. We're
growing.
warming to each other.
Yeah, sort of.
Hey, Indigenous round. Who's your favourite Indigenous player of all time?
Well, I got a couple. Not the typical ones that most people would say. I know Gordy loves one of the guys I'm going to say, but Matty Bowen was one of them.
Yep.
Just the way he moved, the skill set, how quick he was across the ground, footwork, and then another guy, Preston Campbell.
Yeah, right.
For his toughness. You know, he played, he's 70 odd kilo and used to do all the tough stuff, tackled well, and just one of the greatest players of all time, in my opinion. You know, skillful, very quick, and you know, won premiership at the Panthers and stuff too. So, you know, awesome.
Yeah, you sort of ask yourself about that, and you look at Preston, and I played against Preston, and the size of him, I think he made his debut and he marked Wendell on the wing.
That's right.
Way back. So Wendell's 105 kilo, big 6'4" winger that's super strong, super powerful. And Preston held his own in every game. And I asked myself, if I was Preston Campbell's size and had his skill set, would I have had the same career as him? So his determination was unbelievable.
Hard.
So the medal he had inside him is unbelievable, Preston Campbell, to be his size and compete every time. He's a premiership player.
I remember when he marked Greg Inglis one day, and everyone thought he was just going to run through him. And if he was playing now, the new rules would suit him to a T, because he was the best low tackler. I think you'd see he'd go around the legs and always get the big men down. And credit to him, because he's one of the greatest Indigenous of all time.
And there was that. You might have been playing in the game the first year Sam Burgess came out.
The All Stars.
And it was the All Stars game. And Sam Burgess raced out of the line and hit Eli Gordon, and knocked him out. Preston Campbell took the next hit up straight at Sam, and he got hit, and he got flattened like
Sam
a massive
tackled
shot.
him.
Bang!
I remember
he landed, and he got up to the next tackle and run straight back at him again. And we won the game because of Preston's courage.
I agree. Off the back of that, you just lifted another gear.
And I'm running the water, and I wanted to take a hit up. You know what I mean? Like, then that's so, mate. So leaders lead in certain ways, and people always ask me, "What's a leader?" And a leader is someone that people follow. That is the only answer I give them. And that day they 100%. Followed Preston Campbell, and they were the biggest names in the game.
And you can understand, sorry, Maroon, but
you're right.
But for Indigenous round, like I've played in a few of them, and just how much it means to the Indigenous boys, and you know, not so much just about the footy, or actually not even about the footy.
It's not.
It's about, you know, bringing a light to situations or things that their people are going through to try and improve. You know, obviously closing the gap. There's a few things they represent, but for our boys, you know, just giving back to their communities, representing their people, and that's why you see. Well, with our team yesterday, 2 of the boys had hat tricks. You know, they turned in some of the best performances of the season because it means so much to them.
Yeah, because I'll tell you something about rugby league, and I wrote a column on it today in the Courier Mail, is rugby league saved a lot of Indigenous kids from their community, and it was a way out, and it saved a lot of them. And for us to go back and say thank you now, and for one game they can, you know, because you wear your St. George, you wear your South, you wear your Broncos, you always wear your team colours, you always wear your community's colours, but for that 1 week, just make it even more special and represent where they've come from. I think it's just so special. And I know that, you know, in Queensland, just, you know, I mean, like, State of Origin was built on Arthur Beetson, and he's one of the most proudest Indigenous guys ever, you know. And then you get the Matty Bowens, and I've gone up to Matty's community. There's sort of one game. I think there's, well, one game of footy like a year, and uncles will play against their like nephews, and fathers will play against their sons. So it's oldies versus youngies. So you play when you think you're good enough to match it with the old guys, and the old guys play if they think that they're still good enough to keep up with the young guys. And it's just this wonderful game in Hopevale, and you see Matty Bowen's family, and they all play against each other. It's like, mate, it's freaky to have this little community, and all 3 of them have played like NRL. So there's some amazing stories, and rugby league has given that to a lot of kids, and it's good that we're, you know, that we've only started, and the relationship's got to keep on going. But I think the NRL do a fantastic job with celebrating, and that's the same as the women in league round as well. And, you know, they're not jersey washers and orange cutters anymore, because, you know, they're on boards, they're officials, you know, we've got women that are now commissioners, and they're driving our game forward.
It's amazing you talk about Matty Bowens, where the part of the world he comes from. And then Tinga, the place like Tinga, you got Preston Campbell, you got Tinga Blacklock.
Well, if you look
at
that whole region, and then you got the Greg Inglis's and the Mundines originally from there, and then you got the Latrell Mitchells, that area, the players that have come out of that area, and it's just unbelievable, the amount of talent of football players that have come. It's just ridiculous.
And I got to say too, the Indigenous jerseys for this
year,
they've been fantastic, haven't they?
Job.
Even look at the one the Goldies are wearing now, Gold Coast. They're getting beat 30-6, but they look great. And the Bunnies
Don't keep on saying the score.
I've got to say
I'll
the
come
score.
over there.
It's
I'll poke your eyes out in a
mate,
minute.
You'll poke my eyes out,
Yeah.
will you? Mate, well, hang on a second. You haven't here Hoops and Paul Kent to back you up, or you're on your own now.
So you think Benji's on your side?
No, I don't
Yeah,
want
I'm
him
with
on
you.
my side.
Okay, I'm not with you.
He is. Oh, mate, I'm always on my own. But Benj, congratulations on the win for the Bunnies.
Yeah, it was good.
38 points. And you leaked a couple of late tries.
Yeah, well, we just had a different defensive attitude to start the game, and as you know, big games are won on the back of defence, and we've been beaten by the top two sides by 50 in the last 3 weeks. So, our pride took a bit of a hammering, and I just thought the boys laid a real good platform from the start last night. Our middle forward stood up, Junior Totola, Jai Arrows, Damien Cook got in the game early and just set the platform. But, rugby league's a game where you can't just turn up and expect things to happen anymore. You have to go out there and you have to make it happen. You have to turn up and you have to want to be in every tackle. You can't run past tackles. The game is too tough to run away from that stuff, and we probably ran away from that the last 3 weeks. So it's just good for us to get back in that mind frame.
Benji, when did you make your debut? 04?
3.
03.
Mm-hmm.
Gee whiz. I was still playing.
19. Yeah, you were playing.
Yeah, so the times have changed, and I get all that. I get all the stats. But it still comes down to attitude.
Well,
every single week.
The fundamentals of the game haven't changed, Gordy. Like the team that runs the hardest and tackles the hardest usually wins.
Yeah.
Because it's all about attitude and mentally you have to be there to play. You just, sometimes you can get caught waiting for the game to happen, or you can rely on your talent to make it happen. But if you don't have the right mental state, you're never going to beat the opposition.
What have you thought? What are your thoughts on the Panthers, Ben? Just somebody who's still playing. And one fact we haven't touched on, you talked about defence. You know how they've only had 88 points scored against them this year?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is amazing. And, to be fair, their start to the season, even last season, was incredible what they've been able to achieve. I've been coached by Ivan, and Ivan coaches the little things that people don't see. So he coaches generating ruck speed, so having push support around the ball, a few angles, playing the ball quick, and then you can play off the back of that. He coaches when the ball's away from you keep moving towards the ball. So things that the fans don't look for. But he'll pull those little standard behaviours up at training on the video and put you on show for not doing those little roles, and they're the things that are standards within a team. So when you play against Penrith, they're always filling the space. They're always chasing the kicks. You have to break them down because they won't beat themselves. And, their record's been so impressive for the last 18 months. They're going to be tough to beat.
And it's true what he says. I still go back to the Melbourne game because that's where you judge, your side and your performance when you play the big games. And when they played Melbourne, Kickow missed a tackle or he got run through and it was a decoy. He milked it, like he got hit and he fell over and he got up and he ends up tackling Justin Olam 25, 30 metres away on the other side and gets his hand under and stops a try because he went just in case he was needed.
Yeah.
Not because he was needed, because if he lays on the ground, he's fine. Yeah. And he still can get man of the match and get a pat on his back.
But they're the things people don't see.
And they're the things that make the difference.
And they're the things you judge your teammates on as well.
So, Anthony, that's what we judge you on. The things that people don't hear.
Yeah, well, mate, listen. just to be clear, mate, when I'm being judged by you is the day you won't see me anymore, okay? Because I will pull the pin. If I'm being judged by you, mate, you would be flat out getting a job at the FM community station at Coffs Harbour where this game is being played, all right?
Mate, if I had a pineapple,
listen, you don't have to. You don't have hoops.
If
you
I
don't
had a
have
pineapple for every time you threaten to resign from this station because of commentary made by other members of the panel, mate, I'd be a millionaire.
We'd be at
I wouldn't have to
Brisbane
work another day ever again.
I'd be having a dumpling swallowed by another one. I'd just be sitting there eating them like Tic Tacs.
Let's take a break and we'll come back and we will do What Does the Fox Say? Something that you have actually prepared for as Triple M Rocks the Footy.
Triple M rocks the footy.
Welcome back to it. See things differently with Sea-Doo, Australia's #1 choice in personal watercraft. We did some ads for them, Hoops, last year. We'll probably be doing those again soon.
We did over the course of the summer, Anthony. Yeah.
That was good fun.
Great company. I know the great Mark Spud Carroll loves getting out and about. Often goes from the northern beaches all the way up to the sunny coast and parks his Sea-Doo, gets off, goes and has a hamburger and a quiet schooner, mid-strength, and then jumps back on and, all the way back to the beaches.
He loves it with his shirt
Travelling
off.
in style.
Yeah, and Sea-Doo have looked after me. I've just gone up the Brisbane River and go out over to Moreton and cruise around in the Moreton Bay. It's beautiful.
You got the big Sea-Doo as well?
Yeah, I don't know the number of it, I mean, like the size.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a bit like when I drive a car. Like I drive beautiful cars from the Frizzels, but
Sorry?
you just press the button.
I missed
All I
that. Who's cars?
62 High Street. So. But basically, like I'm not one of those guys like you're a rev head, Anthony, so you'd know the cylinders of the car or whatever.
Yeah.
I know that I can just get in, I push the button, and it's magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Like I can change the oil.
You could sell cars.
I can change the oil. I can pump up the tyres.
Oh, I
can
don't
put
even know. I
petrol
don't
in.
think you could pump up the
I
tyres.
don't know, mate. I've been pumping up your
How's
tyres for
that?
a few years.
Wow.
I'm not talking about cars.
That just happened.
All right. The Titans are going good here. Cronulla 36.
Yeah.
Titans 6.
Oh, come on. Let's get the Hackers. Let's get the Hackers about the next game.
Righto, Hackers. Here he is from Ladbrokes. If you're going to have a bet on this big game today, Newcastle and Manly, Ladbrokes Bet Ticker gives you a live feed of incoming bets. See where the big bets land today, but gamble responsibly. Hackers, welcome to you.
Hello, Maroon.
Hello, mate. How are you? How's everything at home?
Yeah, outstanding at home. Big afternoon of footy here. So excited for this game this afternoon. You think it should be a cracker.
Absolutely, Hackers. The Manly Seagulls continue to impress with Tommy in the side. They've been well back to continue their winning ways against the Knights, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a serious go. This one of the biggest goes of the round to date. Manly were as long as $1.36 earlier in the week. They're into $1.19 now, been very popular in multis and same game multis. The Knights were as short as $3.10, they're now out to $4.80. So it's all about the Manly Seagulls in this one.
Who are we looking at for first try, Hackers? Are we thinking Tommy Turbo, Jason Saab's come into some real form in recent times? What's the market say?
They're the two most popular hoops. Jason Saab is the favourite at $8. Bit of money around for Ruben Garrick at $9. Tommy Turbo's $9 as well. Best back for the Knights has been Tex Hoy at $15. And a little bit of money around for Ben Travojevic, despite the fact he's starting on the bench. He's currently $21.
Well, mate, I'm all up for a same game multi. I just want a bit more value. Hackers, do you have anything out there for me or what?
I've got a special for you here this afternoon, Gordy. I'm chips in the Seagulls this afternoon. I like the Seagulls to cover the line. I like Jason Saab to score at any time. Dally Cherry Evans to score at any time as well. Go get you just over $7. I think that the Seagulls can put a bit of a score on here. So the more Seagulls you get in the same game multi, might be the better this afternoon.
Good on you, Hackers. Our mail is you're sitting at home, T-shirt and undies in front of the heater, eating some dim sims that you heated up in the Mikey. Is this a great country I want? Hackers, thank you very much.
What a country.
Good on you, mate. Ladbrokes Bet Ticker gives you a live feed of incoming bets. See where the big bets land today, but gamble responsibly. It's time for this.
What does the fox say?
All right, Hoops, what does the fox say? What mail's getting around today?
Well, it's all around State of Origin at the moment, Anthony. The Blues side will be announced tonight around the 7 p.m. mark. There's going to be a couple of debutants. Brian Toto has won a position on the wing. The Fox Addo Khan will be on the other wing. Tarek Sims is a little bit of a left field bolter on the bench for the Blues. I think Jerome Luai is going to be the one who nails down the New South Wales number 6 jumper, and then they'll go with Jack Whiten as the utility in 14 off the interchange bench.
Penrith are going to be very well represented.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like, they're flying at the moment. They've only dropped the grand final in one other game last season. Isaiah Yeo, tremendous form. We touched on Brian Toto and the influence that he's been able to have out of yardage and just being one of those unorthodox style of meter-making wingers. And then Luai is just a little bit of X factor, a little bit of something different. Benji, do you like the way that he plays?
Yeah, I do like the way he's played, and his combination obviously with Cleary is going to have a big impact on that. And yeah, he won't overcomplicate it, and it allows them to play the style they've been playing. And Nathan, I think he's just taking control of the competition this year, and Jerome just plays off the back of it. So he'll fit in pretty well there, I reckon.
The Maroons will be interesting too, in that there's been a lot of conjecture Cameron Munster won't be available for game one. The Melbourne Storm have since put a statement out saying, no, he is available for selection. So guaranteed Late Amaziah, he'll be there when they announce their team tomorrow morning. I think AJ Brimson is in all likelihood going to be the Maroons' number 14. But
yeah, in the first half he was chasing down one of the Sharkies and he just couldn't get to him and he was limping, sort of like, it looked like a cork or maybe it didn't look like a hamstring because you'd pull up on it. So it looked like it must have been a collision type of injury. And there he is. He's got ice on his knee, so maybe a cork above his knee. Not 100% sure.
Okay, so he's on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Whether they decide they're
Well, it
going
doesn't
to
look good, that.
pick him and give him time, or perhaps would that bring like a Reed Marnie back into the equation, Gordon, or
Benny
Harry
Hunt.
Grant will be the hooker?
Ben Hunt.
Yeah, Ben Hunt. That's true.
Yeah,
Been there, done
because
it.
I think with Ben Hunt can cover 9 and in the backs as well, and they can all sort of push out one.
Yep.
You would imagine.
Yes, yeah. Otherwise, a bit of good news for the Melbourne Storm as well. Anthony, Ryan Pappenhausen, new 3-year contract. Craig Bellamy still yet to officially confirm that he's going to be there next season, but in all likelihood, that's how it appears it's going to shake out.
Is Craig off contract?
Yeah.
What do you reckon he'd get? Seriously.
Well, he's already on 1.5 at the moment anyway, or
Whatever
about
he wants,
that.
really.
He's been on that for many, many years.
Is there a cap on coaches?
No, not head coaches. No, there is that they introduced this soft cap around assistant coaches and other high performance staff, and
He could get $2
all
million.
those
bucks a
types
year.
of football operations
get
people.
2,
But
maybe.
no question he could.
Maybe
Yeah.
even
You'd
more.
think, though, like with the players that are all re-signing and staying there, he's a big chance of staying because as a player, you'd want to know who the coach is going to be. So you'd
Great.
be saying, if he's the coach, well, I know Brandon Smith would want to stay because Craig stays.
You raise a great point, Benji. When they signed Xavier Coates, or the lead up to Xavier Coates making his decision was he won't make a decision until he knows who's going to be the coach, right? Similar with Ryan Pappenhausen, right? And now we see that the Pappenhausen deal will get rubber stamped this week as well. Brandon Smith is another one who's since confirmed, in all likelihood he's going to be at the Melbourne Storm next year, and then he'll wait and see what happens with the 17th team in Queensland beyond that. So good signs for the Melbourne Storm.
Absolutely. What does the Fox say there? And
What a
Cronulla,
seg.
38, Gold Coast
Flying.
6. Still 17 minutes to go. Cronulla 38, Gold Coast 6. That score thanks to Tyre Power. Our big game this afternoon is Newcastle and Manly. Well, I'm feeling an upset there, but we'll get the
What?
Yeah, I think Knights might win that one. But we're going to take a anyway. That's just me. Last thing I want to do is have an opinion on this show. We'll take a break.
No.
We'll come back with more as Triple M rocks the footy. Come back. Still 12 and a half minutes to go. This game's in Coffs Harbour. Cronulla 38, Gold Coast Titans 6. That score thanks to Tyre Power. And now our friends at Apricity Finance. Turn your workflow into cash flow with an invoice finance facility from Apricity Finance called 1300 APRICITY 1300 Apricity. It's time for this.
Raging Bull.
All right, the Raging Bull. What's got you raging today, Gordon?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was going to be about the Indigenous round, but we spoke about that previously. So mine's going to be about the Players Association and their relationship with Peter V'landys, who's the boss.
Yeah.
From the time I started playing, I was really young. We had people coming in all the time trying to get us to sign up to the Players Association. And then when you get older, and then you move through, and you've always wanted to have a say, and we always wanted to have a relationship with the boss. And I was in it when we were going to go have a meeting and we didn't turn up, and Dave Gallup had all the sandwiches. Yeah, cancelled the
That
deli.
cost Craig Gow the deli and medal at you.
And all that kind of stuff. And I was part of it. But as a kid, you didn't really care. As a middle of the road player, when you're coming through, you didn't care. And as you're older and you're thinking, hey, I've got to leave this, none of the kids cared. So you were fighting and you were going by yourself. So I feel like it was a toothless sort of tiger all the time when I was in the Players Association. Then you get the players going to the back page. Now knowing that I'm 47 and the experience in the game, if I had a problem with the boss, you got to go in and knock on the door and you got to have it out with him. You got to go in there and sit face to face. You're not going to achieve anything by talking behind his back, going in there. And I think V'landys is a stand-up guy that if the players do really have a problem, they got to go and see him, knock on the door, have a meeting, going and, talking about it at your own club, getting it in on the back page of the paper, at Fox, on Triple M, is not going to help your cause. I think it's only going to get the boss angry. And if you want a relationship with him and a working relationship moving forward, because you are a partner of the game now, that they got to do it as adults.
Okay. Boys, would you like to comment on that? Benji, as a current player? I know I don't want to put you in a...
No, it's
in
hard
a
to
Thanks, you
spot.
don't want
it,
it, but you just did.
No.
Thanks,
Yeah,
mate.
we'll just say no comment.
But I will.
No, just say no comment.
No comment.
Okay, beautiful. That's it. Would you like to say anything, Hoops, in relation to it?
Yeah, look, obviously this is on the back of we spoke to Clint Newton from the Players Association earlier today, and what staggered me was, when Peter V'landys managed to save the game of rugby league 12 months ago, they were talking about building a statue of him. There was a standing ovation. You and I were at that game Anzac Day.
Yeah.
When Peter V'landys was introduced, he got just as big a roar as what the players did that particular
Saint
day,
Peter.
both captains from
In
both
Peter
clubs.
we trust.
So for
Simply
this to
the
have
best.
turned as quickly as it has, staggers me. The lack of gratitude coming from whichever players it is who are aggrieved and who have sought to go behind people's backs and leak this story into the media for it to be portrayed the way that it has. Whichever player, it's wrong.
I'd want 100% of the players have to be behind it when it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
That's all I'm worried about. This time it's a safety issue. And if it's rules and the rules being brought in and it's making it unsafe, I would say go for it. And I'd jump on the players.
Well, the other thing,
the rules come in to make it safer.
But the other thing that we need to clarify here, Gordon, and this was what I found a little bit frustrating about 20 minutes worth of radio going round in circles in cul-de-sacs with Clint Newton, was we didn't really get any further clarification about what the actual beefs were. No, it's not just the crackdown. It's the consultation process, and it's about process and diligence and all this sort of thing. Just don't worry about swallowing the corporate management thesaurus. Just give us straight answers. Just talk black and white. It's rugby league.
To
It's
build
not
a
rocket
relationship,
science.
you need communication. And obviously V'landys changed the rules. And this is another point. The players, there's been penalties, there's been suspensions. For 100 years, you haven't been allowed to tackle around the head. You have not allowed to tackle. It used to be below the shoulders you had to tackle. So now it's creeping up. There's more head-eye tackles. I think in my area there might have been up to around 10. It was like 300. Then it was like 1,000. And some of them are soft. But we can't judge the force that you get hit with. It's either you get hit in the head or you don't.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think in a black and white sense, like talking about being genuine partners of the game, there was no consultation with the players about.
But are you disappointed that they're making the game safer for you and your kids?
No, that's
forward?
not. No, I'm all on board for the safety.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. It's more about, look, we practice the whole preseason, and you know this.
Yes.
2 people hit up high, and the third guy takes the legs. You can't just practice that in 1 week and expect technique to change. Like, if we had been given a little bit of notice and a little bit of say and or a genuine partnership where we could have it implemented and we all get on board with it and everything was clear, I reckon within 2 or 3 weeks we could have got to that solution with the players' buy-in. Because the problem was there was no consultation with the players.
But Peter was challenged on that because we all blew up because I was up there Magic Round and the oxygen left the stadium and I was on the player side because I heard them all tweeting. There was, certain players tweeting and I'm all for the game and I'm still a fan and I'm a player. I'm an ex-player. I'm not an administrator. I'm a player. And then when he got on and goes, no, we sent out an email and they said, oh, well, other clubs got told. Then he goes, no, this was when the email went out. And maybe they just get that thing going, they're going to crack it.
Yeah, it was an email. But I reckon, obviously it's easy to say now. If we had just all sat down together, club by club, how they usually deliver the messages, and maybe because of COVID they couldn't, I don't know. But that would have solved a lot more problems because what you need from the players is not everyone's going to agree. But if everyone buys in, play on.
I understand and I respect that. And of course, the players play a hugely important role in the game. They are the game, right? But last year, when the whole world was put on pause and on hold, and there was that much uncertainty, and a lot of people, a lot of industries were completely stripped out and haven't recovered since. If it wasn't for Peter V'landys digging his heels in the way that he did, not only that, he forced the game, right, into a position. He pushed the game's barrow so hard that they resumed on May the 28th. That forced AFL. AFL were going to be caught dithering otherwise. They were running around in circles, wanting to, try and just keep things in a holding pattern for as long as possible. But the fact that rugby league resumed, that actually forced the hand of AFL.
Yeah,
for them to
but then
also
that's his
get
job
back
as
on
a
the
boss.
No, I know it is. I know it is. But I guess
right now it's about communication between. And then I'm just saying for the players, they need to get a better relationship with Pete, and Pete needs to get a better relationship with the players. So somehow they've got to do it, and they can't be doing it by an email, and then the players can't be doing it by, you know, Fox, Triple M, or the
I
papers.
don't disagree on
It's
that,
gotta
Gordon,
be
at all.
man to man.
You're spot on, right? But from an outside point of view, when you just look at the fact that the sacrifices he was prepared to make,
Yes,
and to
I
the
agree
nth
with all
degree, the way that he was prepared
we're all with him on that.
fight, that's right. But if it wasn't for, like, if he hadn't done that, if other people had been running the game at the time, I dare say
we'd
they
be
would have
gone.
just packed the 10 up
I
and
agree.
said, okay, no
100%.
worries, you know what? The whole world's on pause at the moment. We can't be the ones pushing the envelope here. We just need to wait until we get the correct ticks and the correct protocol approvals, and then we'll whereas Volandis was like, no, hang on a minute. He studied the numbers. He worked out a way that he could get the game back on the field as quickly as possible, because he knew that if he didn't do that, I don't know where the game would be today. And that's not overstating it. That's not trying to over-dramatise it. They're the facts. So that's where I just get a bit frustrated with, you know, yarns that appear about anonymous players.
But that's not all the players.
No.
That's, you know, that's probably one or two or three. You know, look, if you speak to most of the players, not everyone's saying that.
And that's what I'm trying to say. So when I was playing, the players all have to be on the same page. So that's why, and it takes a long time to get every club, and then, oh no, we didn't have a meeting. We're having that meeting on whatever.
Like,
and then some players just go, I don't care.
If you got buy-in from the players and they all come in and agree, you wouldn't see people tweeting on their own back, because there were people who genuinely didn't know about the crackdown until Magic Round.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Communication everywhere in the game.
All right, boys.
What a great segment. And Maroon, I just love you reading an invoice financer.
Yeah, no worries.
Who was sponsored that seg?
That was
Apricity Finance.
Apricity Finance.
Yeah, right.
Gavin,
Who did they
and
sponsor?
Tony.
They sponsor this big
sponsor
fella.
Gordon,
Yeah,
but
wouldn't have known.
Anthony
He's only plugged
also,
a couple of things today.
Anthony also uses them for his own invoice purposes
Oh,
for
yeah.
Rocket Industries.
I do too, and they're very fantastic. I try to. I don't know why
So-
they don't tip a little bit my way, because I'm doing.
I know, well, they
such a great
can.
ad.
But, you know, mate, well, next time they have a gig, mate, I'll get you along.
No,
I appreciate that.
I heard you do everything for free now.
Oh, I do a lot of stuff for free, but I do more than my fair share. Don't worry about that. And of course, you can now
Easy,
stream
Georgie.
every game of the NRL and AFL live on the Listener app, LISTNR app. Download it now, LISTNR. Just while we've got a second, boys, we didn't speak. We took up the whole segment talking about the Raiders. We didn't touch much on the Roosters. I don't know if you probably didn't get to see that game, Benj, but
I saw a little bit of it.
Joseph Suwali got a try.
How good.
I was going to say to you, like, I can remember there was a lot of hype around you before you first played first grade. How did that affect your first few games?
Well, when you're young, you don't know any different. Like, you don't have any fear of anything. There's no pressure. There's no fear of failure, because you haven't experienced it. Then when you get a bit older, you've been through the ups and downs. You've had bad games where you've been put under the pump. But when you're young, you don't know, like, you don't see any different. That's why you see these guys playing so confident. Sam Walker's, they'll throw that pass again. They haven't been through the ups and the downs that get you a little bit scarred. But
the media hasn't started bagging them yet.
Well,
they're still the fresh little
but
baby face.
that's
that
part
we
of the
love.
game. You got to get, you get all the raps, but you got to be able to take the criticism as well.
Who did you debut against?
Newcastle at Campbelltown Stadium.
So it wasn't Brisbane. That was Chris
That
Lawrence.
was my second game.
Yeah,
against
right.
Brisbane
Yeah.
in Brisbane.
Because Chris
Yeah, I
Lawrence
remember
scored a
Chrissy
big long.
Lawrence's
scored
debut. He was up
right.
at Suncorp. Yeah, he was
That's
still.
what I thought.
Thanks to me, I was injured.
Okay, boys, I've got to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll preview Manly versus Newcastle as Triple M rocks the footy. But if you're over beer, how about we stock your fridge full of refreshing CC and dries? That's right. If you've got an evening with friends or family coming up, tell us what it is and why you want to share your fridge full of CC to be in the running to get your fridge stocked with CC. Enter now at ccstockmyfridge.com.au. This is a big game this afternoon. Dan's going to call this one for you in about 8 minutes' time. It's Manly taking on the Newcastle Knights at McDonald Jones Stadium. Brent Reid is there. Reedy, what's going on? How are conditions up there at the moment?
It's cold. I'm standing on the sideline here with Kalen Ponga. Kalen, the million dollar question, Origin, will you be fit?
Yeah, I should be free. I'm gonna, hopefully I get the call, and I'm in the team that's announced tonight. So, and then just do everything right to be able to play.
What's been the issue, Kalen? Can you take us through it? It's adductor, right?
It's my groin. Yeah, so it's like a tendon injury.
And no concerns going in Origin, given you haven't played. It's been a few weeks now, obviously.
I'm not playing, but I'm still doing, the con on the sideline of conditioning. So. It's been tough actually, just in terms of, when you're not playing, you still have to train, just as hard. So that's been good. It'll put me in good stead.
So let's okay. You're right. Let's alleviate the concerns of all Queenslanders. You're right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, good stuff. Thanks, Carlin.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
There he is, KP, suggesting that he will be okay for Queensland going into Origin, but AJ Brimson may be in jeopardy. Fox League reporting bone bruising. So AJ Brimson might be in doubt. Kalen Ponga will be there. And by the way, full-time in that game, the Sharks have defeated the Gold Coast 38 points to 10. That score all thanks to tyre power. Boys, let's talk about this game today. Manly taking on the Gold Coast Titans.
The Newcastle
Knights, I beg your pardon.
97 GF replay, Anthony.
I think at the start of the year, first few games, people were searching for the record books. When was the last time, if ever, have Manly come last? Yet since
Never.
that, never, and they've turned their season right around, haven't they?
It's incredible. It was spoken about at length that once Tom Trbojevic returned to the Manly side, just how important his presence and everything that he does around Manly's attack was going to be. But the way he's single-handedly transformed that side and also improved all the other players around him. Like, there was a lot of talk over the opening month of the competition when they lost their first 4 games that Daly Cherry Evans was badly out of form and his position in the Queensland side was being questioned. But the return of Tom simply unlocked his brother Jake, has Daly back to playing his absolute best footy. And you'd have to say at the moment, I don't know how you see it, Benji, but if they continue to chalk the wins up the way they are, they're going to be a show at the top 4 at the end of the year.
100%. Like you just talked about Turbo. Like, you couldn't predict that he was going to have that much impact on the side. Seriously, like he was going to make him a better team, but you couldn't say that they were going to be that much better.
What's funny, I remember ringing Matty Johns when he initially strained the hamstring, and this was before the footage of the match race down the Manly Corso came out.
What a
right?
race.
So at that stage, we still thought that it was the slip over in the shower accident. And I said to Matty, what does it mean? Tommy's done his hamstring, he's out for the opening. He said, no side in the competition relies on one individual more than Manly do on Tom Trbojevic. And he couldn't, he wasn't overstating it. Like he said, I promise you, he said, it's such a devastating loss. Des will be in the fetal position because Tommy is just integral to everything.
I didn't understand how much of a leader he was, and I thought last week summed it up perfectly when one of his forwards wasn't in the right position, didn't turn and chase and didn't fill the space, and they made a line break, and he stopped the try, and he turned around and gave him the biggest spray
ever.
And this is Turbo, who thinks quite a quiet, sort of nice looking guy, and to me that just showed his leadership, and that's what you need in your team. And well, he's the man at the back, and he says everything. He didn't miss that little bit of a standard from one of his teammates, and they're the standards they were lacking at the start of the season. So obviously, he brings a lot to the attack, but defensively and leadership, I've heard he brings a lot more. So I think it's going to be a tough game for the Knights today. They're on the rise, the Sea Eagles, and their forward pack is what's been doing it for me lately.
And the next 5 games, I think they've got to buy. They've got like the Cowboys, Sharks, Titans, Bulldogs, and Dragons
games.
or something like that. So through the Origin period, they're playing all those sides down below them, where you think they can get through without DCE and the Trbojevic brothers. And Benny, I think Benny's making...
He is, the younger Turbo.
So
we're going to get...
Yep.
Burbo.
Yep, 3. The Turbo Burbos, look out.
Hey, boys, just before we go very quickly, we haven't touched on this yet. Some reports suggesting, I think Buzz Rothfield might have raised it, that perhaps Shane Flanagan is being looked at to Newcastle to fill some sort of a coaching role.
Yeah, that was the lead item in Buzz's column in the Sunday Telegraph today, that the Newcastle Knights are obviously undergoing a football review of their system at the moment. And as a result, he's got Flano's name linked as possibly going in to help out Adam O'Brien. I tell you what, look, they have had some major injuries, like no Kalen Ponga and no Mitch Pearce. When Mitch Pearce doesn't play, their win numbers since he joined the Knights are awful. Like, it's less than 25% win ratio when Junior doesn't play. But yeah, they got some... they got a little bit more short-term pain coming at the Knights for mine at the moment.
They'll have Jake Clifford back next week too.
Yeah, of course. Jake Clifford will be at the Knights. Now, that's it where we leave it, boys. Who are you tipping for this one, Hoopsy? Manly.
I'm going with Manly, yeah.
And you too, Gordy? All righty. And we'll have more on where Origin will be played soon as it happens. But you say, Hoops, in the next 24, 48 hours, we shall know.
I reckon we'll find out tomorrow. And in all likelihood, the way that the cards are shaping up at the moment looks as though it's going to be up in Gordy's old stomping ground of Townsville.
Okay.
Straight to the Ville will be.
And, of course, that is all going to happen for you. You can hear the whole thing here on the Triple M Network. We're going to rock State of Origin for you. Full-time, Cronulla have absolutely given it to the Titans by 38 points to 10. Our next game, which we'll have for you live, Dan's going to call it for you. It's Newcastle and Manly live from McDonald Jones Stadium as Triple M rocks the footy.